Councillor Kitt, Councillor Leddy, Councillor Maguire, Councillor McCamley, Councillor McDonough, Councillor Mulligan, Councillor Mulville, Councillor Murphy, Councillor Newman, Councillor O'Brien, Councillor O'Leary, Councillor Anumera, apologies, Councillor Quinlan, Councillor Quinn, Councillor Redwood, Councillor Ryan, Councillor Sheehan, Councillor Shovlin, Councillor Smith, Councillor Thormy, apologies, Councillor Troy, Councillor Walsh.
Councillor Boland present.
Before we begin, I want to extend, the Council want to extend our condolences to our colleague Councillor Owen O'Brien on the passing of his father, Pádraig O'Brien. May he rest in peace, Yeshte Garawa Anam. And also for Garda Kevin Flatley, we wish to extend our deepest heartfelt sympathies to the family and friends of Garda Flatley on their tragic loss, and to the Garda colleagues who've lost a member in the line of duty while protecting us all. Books of condolences for Garda Flatley are open at the County Hall, the Civic Offices in Blanchardstown, and at Balbriggan Library. Yeshte Garawa Anam, and we'll just take a moment to reflect on both of those. So item 1, confirmation and reaffirmation of the minutes of the Council meeting held on Monday the 14th of April 2025. Proposed. Seconded Councillor McCamley. Questions 2 through to 15. Proposed Councillor Walsh, seconded Councillor McCamley. The reports of committees, item 16, and I get a proposer and seconder for each of them. Is that correct? Yeah. Item A, report of the Organisation, Procedures and Finance Committee meeting held on Monday the 14th April 2025. Proposed. Report of the Blanchardstown, Mulhuddard, Castleknock, Ongar Services B Area Committee meeting held on Thursday the 1st of May 2025. Proposed, Councillor Kitt, seconded Councillor Anumera. Item C, report of the CPG dated Tuesday the 6th of May 2025. Proposed. Seconded Councillor Dennison. Agreed? Agreed. Item D, report of the Howth Malahide Services B Area Committee held on Wednesday the 7th May 2025. Proposed. Seconded Councillor Hopkins. Item E, report of the Balbriggan Rush Lust Sword Services B Area Committee meeting held on Thursday the 8th of May 2025. Seconded there. And we've no financial matters. Item 18, proposed disposal of properties. A, notice of proposed disposal of land adjacent to number 2 Abbey Lee Avenue, Swords, County Dublin to Clare Woods. Proposed Councillor Corkery, seconded Councillor O'Leary. Agreed? Item B, proposed disposal of fee simple interest of dwellings. I don't have the second part of that there. Oh, sorry. No. Okay, sorry, yeah. Proposed. Seconded. Seconded Councillor Shovlin. Agreed? Agreed. Item 19, declaration of roads. There are individual proposals. Second again. I need a proposer for Bellingsmore Green Area, Tillardstown, Dublin 15. Proposed, Councillor Dennison. Seconded, Councillor Anumera. B, Mount Eustace, Tillardstown, Dublin 15. Proposed, Councillor Dennison. I need a seconder. Seconded, Councillor Hannafy. C, Delhurst Estate, Filblestown, Dublin 15. Proposed, Councillor Walsh. Seconded, Councillor Dennison. D, Hayworth Estate, Filblestown, Dublin 15. Councillor Dennison and Councillor Walsh. E, Clough-Cornall, Balbriggan, County Dublin. Proposed, Councillor Ryan. Seconded, Councillor O'Leary. Agreed. F, Lanestown View, Donabate. Can I have a proposer? Proposed, Councillor Johnson. Seconded, Councillor Dockrell. Agreed. Sorry, Councillor Mulville.
The playground there, is that going to be taken in charge, or what's the position on that? Is that a separate process, please? Or someone can...
Mr. McLeese.
Yeah, I can confirm that's a separate process, Councillor Mulville.
So item F, Lanestown View, Donabate, has been proposed and seconded. Is that agreed? Agreed. Item 20, the draft Concilla Framework Plan, Donald O'Kellig. Has this been to the area committee?
This is a non-statutory framework plan, so we have had a consultation with the elected members, but we have a short presentation for today as well.
Hi, councillors. Thanks very much for taking the time here today. I'll just bring you through very quickly what's been going on with the draft Concilla Framework Plan. So, starting off, I'll just again talk to what a framework plan is. Framework plans are kind of one of the three local planning types of plans we have in the development plan. Obviously, it's the local area plan, which is statutory. We have framework plans, which kind of set out very much the high-level framework for the development in an area. And then we have master plans, which are very much more detailed in terms of height and massing and density and uses of particular sites. So this one sits in the middle. It's a framework plan. We have in the development plan a list of quite a few framework plans. You can see them up there. And Concilla Framework Plan is on map sheet 13. It's number C. And just again, it's probably worth stressing again that these plans are advisory in nature. They give a long-term vision for the future, allowing sufficient flexibility to manage change. The plans are informed by research and baseline data which will identify opportunities for future development and highlight constraints that may exist in an area. They offer a vision for an area within the structure of the development plan. I suppose it's worth noting we've just recently enough completed one for Donabate area, Donabate Framework Plan, and you can see the nature of that plan, which is actually now starting to be implemented by the 10 Centre First team and by the council in general. It was very much to look at the urban realm and movement in the area and to see how improvements could be made for the people who live and work in the area. So I suppose just moving on, just to give a quick outline of Clonsilla in context at the moment. It's an area where there's a lot of change happening, obviously. I suppose these are the big kind of developments, I suppose, which are shaping development in the area. Dart Plus West, obviously, is going through, and that'll have a huge impact in terms of accessibility, increasing accessibility via the Dart system, but also having an impact in terms of road closures with the level crossings there. We also have a great project in terms of the Royal Canal Urban Greenway, which is being progressed. We have kind of new residential communities. There's been quite a few grants for additional dwellings in the area. So again, it's an area with a growing population and kind of growing needs for kind of a better urban realm. We have Kellystown local area plan to the south, and again that's for an additional, possibly it's in the region of 1,600 homes. So that'll be almost a significant new area for Clonsilla and for Dublin 15. And then finally we have the old school master plan, which is being progressed, and we plan to go on public display with the draft kind of in the next few weeks. So just to give a bit more background in terms of Clonsilla in context, you can kind of see from the aerial view that it's a residential area with considerable amounts of, again, there are kind of areas within it which are, again, being consolidated and infilled with residential development. The character of the village itself, again, that's kind of one of the main key challenges facing it. Given the amount of traffic that comes through it, given the narrowness of the road and the footpaths, and given the building lines, it's not probably the most welcoming of environments for pedestrians. And for cyclists and for people using active travel. So you can kind of see in that photograph there's a car parked on the pavement. There's kind of a lot of visual clutter in terms of kind of overhead poles. The pavements are very narrow. So again, that's just one area, and that's an area that we've concentrated on very much to try and improve, to bring a sense of place to Clonsilla. There is a sense of place there, and the people there will tell you, they'd be very quick to tell you that it is a very strong sense of place for them. But just I suppose we want to improve that and give maybe more of a focal point for the village. Just very quickly there on the right hand side, you can see it's not a uniform area either. It's very long, it's like 1.1 kilometres from one edge to the other, so it's kind of a huge length. So you can break it down into various different character areas, and the approach we've taken kind of very much reflects that. Okay, so I suppose it's very important to emphasise with this project is the level of public consultation that we've carried out. Both at pre-draft and draft stages. So very basically, we at the consultant team did retailer visitor shopper centres just to see what's going on in the town centre in terms of the businesses there. We had pre-draft group workshops organised through the PPN, and we received submissions from a range of people, 70 submissions, including from St. Martha's National School. It's kind of hard to see there, but that is an exceptionally good drawing from, I think, 2 pupils from 3rd class in the National School. We sent a letter thanking them because it is genuinely excellent. Again, it shows the type of things that the kids there have identified as being important in terms of play, in terms of accessibility for people.
Sorry, apologies, Councillor McCamley, you're correct.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Councillor. In terms of, again, you have playgrounds, you have kind of trees and planting, you have kind of the character of the area. So I think that was kind of an excellent, we just wanted to show that. So we could play it here now, we'll maybe ask at the end, depending how long this presentation takes. We prepared a 5-minute video, which again was very effective in communicating to the local members, but also to the people what the type of projects that we'd be doing, what we're proposing, and again, it was, I think, very successful. It's a very good piece of work, so we can see if there's appetite to show that, then afterwards we can do so. We had a draft consultation, went on again on the plan for the usual 4 weeks, and we had a public consultation drop in Blanchetown Library. It just shows, again, we reached out a lot. There was a lot of people who were very interested, especially coming from the video afterwards, and we had 336 submissions. So if you look, I think we had other framework plans where at this stage it would be kind of 100 or something like that as well. So again, there was a huge amount of interest in this. I'll go through this quickly enough. Again, this is just out of those consultation. As I said, the plan is very much based on the results of the consultation process. So again, we came up with the consultants with a vision, which is again, that Clonsilla is a distinct place that embraces rich heritage and natural assets, fostering pride of place and a sense of community, through improvements in the public realm, and to enhance community and recreation facilities, prioritisation of active travel, increased legibility, and the showcasing of its unique attributes, which is a mouthful. But basically, the idea behind it is, again, we're focusing on pride of place, improvements in the realm, and connectivity. So how we did it, or how we set it out, again, there was an urban realm strategy, and then there was a kind of a transportation strategy, but it was based around the idea of having key projects. And we identified 8 key projects that, again, similar to Dunabate, if they were to be implemented or run with, they could actually make a very positive contribution to life of people in Clonsilla. So you can see there on the top right, that's kind of the general location of the various different projects. So we have the redefined village centre, we have traffic management, which is effectively public realm works and traffic calming. We have an active travel link, which goes from Lohunda village all the way to the train station, which again, it doesn't actually go out to the road, it goes behind the tree line. We're preserving the tree line there, but just again to allow people and children to be able to cycle to school or to walk to school much easier. We had proposed, again, additional recreational amenities in Castlefield Park, and at Castlefield Court, which is slightly to the west. So that's, we're kind of proposing to maintain the character of the area. It's very beautiful when you go there. The Clonsilla Lahunda area, there was Lahunda House, there was a kind of historic house, which was then effectively redeveloped the site. But it has still that domain character. It's actually really special. It's a really nice part of Clonsilla, even to go for a walk. So we're conscious of the need to maintain and protect that. We have gateways at both ends of the town, of the village basically, are very important to us. Again, so we have recommended public realm works there as well. And Porterstown Road, just the idea again behind that is to move that away from being car dominated and to have much more of a mixed use area for cyclists and pedestrians and vehicular traffic. And then we have wayfinding, so basically we'll have some signage, particularly near the train station. Okay, so that's the plan effectively. I said the video goes into that in more detail over 5 minutes, but I suppose what we're talking about here again is the element of the Chief Executive's report. So like any plan, we look at the submissions received from government bodies, but also from members of the public. We summarise them and we come up with potential recommendations of how the plan that went out in draft could be improved for its actual final adoption. The issues that came up very strongly in this, again, I won't necessarily list them all. The issue of antisocial behaviour and the over-provision of playgrounds was a big one. So there was a fear, I think, amongst people that if you provide additional playgrounds in the area, that they act as magnets to antisocial behaviour. So again, that was something which came up, especially in relation to, again, Project 4. There was, again, just talk on the potential impacts of what we were proposing on the natural and cultural heritage, worries about trees and planting, or we had issues about what the impact would be in terms of traffic on local businesses. We had, again, a very detailed submission in that regard. Again, going back to loss of trees, whether or not that would happen, and then just various different things outside the scope of the framework plan. So as I said, 336, a lot of submissions to summarise, and again, we did listen to each and every one of them, and we have kind of summaries of them all. So I suppose that we again, in our recommendations, there's 18 recommendations in our C's report. Again, I won't go through them, but just you can generally, what the tone of the main ones are, is again, it's providing a lot of clarification and peace of mind to people who might be worried that what we're proposing, instead of being a framework, is a finalised document, a finalised thing. And again, just to emphasise that again, this will form the basis for potential projects which will need to get funding themselves, which will then need to go through consent process themselves, and will then need to be, we'll have to consult with the public again. So again, and also they're very much indicative. So it's an idea of framework, but again, the detail will be worked out with the departments which are kind of implementing them with the people of the area. So again, we're providing more clarity in relation to the strategic nature of the framework plan. We're providing clarity that projects will ensure high levels of passive surveillance per the development plan policy. In this regard, it's interesting to note that after we had all these submissions in, we decided it would be a very good idea to speak to the local community guard just to get a handle ourselves. Again, a lot of the submissions we're talking about antisocial behaviour, we just wanted to get a gauge. And the local community guard was basically very supportive of the measures that we would have put in. And he said, again, if they're developed properly in terms of open surveillance, and again, that Gardaí can see into them, then it wouldn't be a challenge, wouldn't be an issue for the community. So it was good to get that extra level of assurance. A few other little ones, again, traffic management measures, we were able to do additional, give additional some peace of mind that we'll be removing certain things which would have potentially impacted on business. And there was issues about connectivity in one particular estate. We'd want to explore connectivity again, as similar to Dunabate, but again, that turned out to be, it's not going to be feasible, it'll be taken out. Yeah, so moving on to the actual key projects themselves. So this is kind of the meat of them, and that's, you can see in the report that it's dealt with in terms of the key project. So in terms of the redefined village centre, there were issues, again, people bringing up the need for play space there, and again, the antisocial behaviour. So the playground and seating area at the London Lodge itself will be removed, but an enhanced public ground space will be provided for. And we will, very, very importantly, this goes throughout, existing historic trees there, because it is historic domain, will be maintained. We're not going to go in there and start taking down trees, which, again, we can't even do. Our own development, if we want to, our development plan protects them. I know there's been issues of ash dieback in the area at the moment, but again, that's something which is kind of outside the scope of this plan. So that's why, again, the preservation of existing trees is incredibly important. We have done, again, further review in terms of the road management, and again, just to stress that anything will be subject to future consent process. The active travel link, there were concerns about how it could be implemented. So we had it as a kind of a framework plan idea. Locals were worried about the impact it would have on their houses, etc. We were able to get our transport consultants, again, to do further detailed research to show that it could be demonstrated in line with national best practice. But again, we've emphasising the pedestrian and user safety is paramount. Key project 4, which I know is probably the single biggest kind of bone of concern or bone of contention amongst many people who put in submissions. We have recommended in the Chief Executive Report that the playground in Castlefield Park and the calisthenics area at Castlefield Court will be removed. However, we do still recognise that there is potential for public realm enhancements in the area. If you go there again, you can see what's there at the moment is a large open area of grass, which is, again, tended, it's mowed, but again, I think there's potential given its size for, again, its exploration of some public realm works to be put in there. So we've left that there. Clonsilla Western Road, there's projects 5, 6 we've retained, and project 7 and 8. So I suppose the big ones for us there are, again, key project 4, the amendments to that, and then the clarifications of other things. So that is the end of the presentation here. I'm not sure if the video, Matt, or is there any? No, it's okay.
I think we'll.
Yeah, that's fine.
Councillor Leddy.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks very much for the presentation. There's lots and lots I could say about it because I'm very interested in the subject matter, but I don't want to take up too much time in the meeting. But I am very pleased at the plan and the effort that the council have put into it. Just the one point I do want to make, and I know you have addressed it, but while I do support the plan, as a councillor, I've always viewed green areas as being in 3 different categories. All green areas are either pitches, open spaces or parks. And every housing estate in Fingal has an open space. And Castlefields has a very large open space. And this plan appears to convert that open space into a public park. And that to me does seem like a very unusual, if not unprecedented practice. And that would be a very significant sacrifice for the residents of Castlefield. So I just would like to get your views and comments on that. Thank you.
Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, thanks, thanks, Donal, and thanks to the planning team and the consultants for the work done on it. I think it's very comprehensive, and I think as well, there's a lot of evidence in the presentation that you listened closely to the consultation, and there was an extensive consultation. I participated in it myself. I know a lot of residents and residents groups did. So listen. I think among the changes you've made is the amendment to Key Project 4, which involves removing the proposed kind of formal recreational space in the 3 green areas in Castlefield, and that very much reflects the feedback from residents. So I welcome that. I'd be just a couple of questions, maybe just confirm my understanding that what you're suggesting there is purely public enhancement improvements. That could be benches, it could be flower beds, but it wouldn't be kind of large scale. It wouldn't be kind of large scale works which would effectively take over the green space and convert it into, change the purpose of that green space or impact on residential amenity for local residents. And in terms of the public enhancement works, I've been very supportive of public enhancement works, which I think are excellent throughout Dublin 15. Maybe just to confirm that if anything is being proposed there, that there would be consultation with residents, and residents we get the input of residents on what kind of public enhancement might be done and where it would be located. Because I think there was a lot of concern in Castlefield, Councillor Leddy referred to it, from residents who are concerned just that the informal recreational uses, kids playing football, older people walking the green space, that those will be maintained and protected. And I think that's really important. Secondly, just welcome the changes as well in relation to Lambourne, and that comes from, I think, feedback from the Lambourne resident, very active Lambourne Residents Association. And I might just, I think you mentioned the master plan on the old schoolhouse at Clonsilla. Glad you mentioned that. I might just confirm, I think that's due to come forward this month, so I might just confirm that there is a consultation on that, and that will be going out to public consultation this month. And I suppose finally, just a general comment, I've been calling for a framework plan in Clonsilla since I was first elected. I welcome the plan and also welcome the significant changes that have been made to it. There's been a huge amount of development in Clonsilla, and I think there's a lot of feeling among people in Clonsilla that the development hasn't occurred without the infrastructure, the public realm enhancements, the overall planning that's essential to protect Clonsilla for the future as a sustainable and livable area. So, welcome the work that's been done. Probably it was needed a few years ago, but it's very good that it's going ahead now. And maybe just if you could respond to those couple of questions, that would be great.
Councillor Carboni-Mangan.
And thank you for your the presentation and all the information contained. I think I obviously echo what my colleagues have said, and I appreciate that the 336 submissions received, you took the feedback into consideration. The main one certainly that came my way was the issue with Castlefield and the playground. So just some clarity around public enhancement, what that means for Castlefield in when you're removing the playground. So as I said, yeah, thank you for the work done and appreciate the engagement and the feedback. Thank you.
Councillor Shovlin.
Yeah, thanks so much for the presentation. So I had a lot of feedback throughout the draft consultation period, and I think, to be honest, for the majority, a lot of the feedback I got, be it in relation to the accessibility piece in Lambourne or Castlefield Park opening up as a park area, it's really been taken on board in what you've come back with, and I think there'll be a certain sigh of relief with a lot of residents to learn that their opinion has been taken on board so strongly. So I'd like to thank you for that. One of the questions that I get a lot is kind of, what happens next, or like, where do we go from here? So I think just it would be really important if you could just provide a little bit of clarity and information around that, especially for anybody who is watching at home. And in terms of Castlefield, if there were going to be different improvements made, that there would be a consultation piece around that as well. Just some clarity on that would be really appreciated. So thanks a million for the presentation. Thank you.
Councillor Redwood.
Do I need to press that again? No. Sorry. I've had approaches on a number of issues from residents that I just wanted to get a bit of clarification on. I mean, I think it's very good to see the way that the council has taken on board so many of the points that have been raised in the submissions, and that's, excellent. Just asking for clarity on a few things. I think it's good that it, as far as I understand it anyway, that you've decided to drop the point about opening up access to the canal from Lambourne. I mean, the residents were campaigning up 3 years and more to try and get that closed off because it was a runway for skullduggery and so on. And, so I think if you could just confirm that. I just wondered about the aspect of heritage as well. There do seem to be demolition orders that have been allowed on a couple of places, like Clonsilla Lodge, I think, and Keen's Cottage, very historic. Well, Keen's Cottage, built in the early 1800s, must be enormous historic value, I would think. So perhaps you could comment on that. I mean, I think that, there's these sort of historic sites can be developed as an amenity and an attraction in the area rather than, putting demolition orders on them. And they, if they've fallen into disrepair, then they need to be repaired, not to be demolished. And similarly, the old schoolhouse, just if you could clarify what's the proposal there. Again, that could be really, preserved and developed as a community facility in the area. So just those points. Thanks.
Mr. McLeese.
Thanks very much for those questions, councillors. I'll go through them all. I think kind of a lot of them have overlapping issues, but again, it's good. I'll just clarify them councillor by councillor. So just in terms of the initial question from Councillor Leddy, in terms of the green areas and the whole notion of, again, converting it to public park, that's not what's intended here. And it does very much kind of fit to what Councillor Walsh is saying in terms of it'll be purely public enhancement. So it'll be no large scale kind of green space in that sense. It'll be, again, as said, be benches and planting. Kind of that's the level of intervention that we would propose there. Yeah, so again, going on to Councillor Walsh, yeah, just again, it goes to the same point, it'd be purely public enhancements. The consultation with residents with public enhancement, yeah, that's again something that would be kind of standard for that type of kind of activity in the area, so that will be something which will be undertaken. Lambourne residents, yeah, again, I think it's, so you were just talking about the huge level of development in the area, the development of area. I suppose that's kind of one of the reasons why, again, this is such an important framework plan to put in. Kind of we're aware of the level of development going on, and we're also aware of some of the things that could be done to improve Clonsilla to make it a nicer place for people who live there and people who are going to move in there as well. So I suppose that's kind of driving that. In terms of the old schoolhouse, and again that goes to Councillor Redwood's question as well. Yeah, it's premature. I can't really we will obviously present in terms of the draft. It's a lot of work has gone into the old schoolhouse master plan as well because of its sensitivities. It's an incredibly difficult site. And it's got a huge amount of sensitivities in terms of built heritage with not only the canal but the old schoolhouse, but even in terms of ecology. So we did a huge amount of work trying to ensure that any development that goes on there will be kind of fully sustainable. So again, that'll be hopefully in the next kind of week or two, again going on draft for public display. So that'll be kind of available to view in that sense. Yeah, again, Councillor Carbone Mangan, yeah, clarity in relation to public enhancement. Again, it's not a new park. It's again park benches and planting. So it's kind of a minimal level of intervention at the level. Councillor Shovlin, just in terms of what happens next, I suppose, again, at the moment it's the draft up there. Once it's approved here at this meeting, hopefully, it'll then just be a council document as much as the done by framework plan as a council document, and we as a council will start implementing kind of the projects there with, and again, I just have to point out again, all of the works that are done are very much done, if they need consent, the consent requires consultation. If it's kind of local works, there's consultation done as well. So this is still just a framework, it's still just a vision for the area. Kind of the detail will then be implemented by the council going forward with, again, consultation from local people. Councillor Redwood, just in terms of heritage and Keen's Cottage, etc., and the old schoolhouse generally, I suppose it's very important to remember that the framework plan sits within our kind of suite of plans. So you have the development plan and you have framework plans, master plans and local area plans. The development plan takes precedence in terms of protection of vernacular heritage, in terms of protected structures, in terms of general development management proposals for things, for what's there at that moment. So I suppose while heritage is very important, and again we can recognise it as an important element here, it's still, applications would still be subject to the development plan requirements in there. So I suppose that gives a level of protection already. So thanks very much for that. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks very much for the... Oh yeah, sorry, we need a proposer and a seconder for the framework plan. Proposed Councillor Walsh, seconded Councillor Carbone Mangan. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. And we are moving on to the proposed special speed limit bylaw 2025 L7011 from Ongar Distributor Road to junction with Barnell Road. But before we do that, I neglected my duties. Apologies to the members. I'll just read and remind some of the issues that arise. So all mobile phones should be on silent or switched off. The meeting is being webcast. Remember to switch off your microphone when you've finished speaking. All members are reminded the chamber is a non-smoking vaping area. Standing orders will apply to all aspects of the meeting. Councillors, reminder of the provisions of Standing Order number 92 that all members are bound to act in accordance with the ethics framework and code of conduct for local authority members to cooperate with the orderly conduct of meetings, the direction of the mayor, and in a manner that is respectful of colleagues. Members have been circulated with the agenda for today's meeting. Any member forming the view that they have a conflict of interest in the matters of subject to today's agenda should now disclose the same. Councillors are also reminded of the provisions of Standing Order number 93. Members must bear in mind that discussions at council meetings are not privileged. No member may make false statements, impute improper motives or use offensive or unbecoming words in reference to any member of the council, employee, the council or any other person. Any member having made such statements or used such objectionable words and not explaining or retracting the same or offering apologies for the use thereof when requested by the Mayor to do so shall be called upon by the Mayor to withdraw from the meeting. Members making any such statements or comments might find themselves personally liable for them. We also received apologies from Councillor Donnelly, Councillor Troy and Councillor Quinn-Levin. There was an emergency request for emergency motion. I have ruled that out of order, and I'll address that with the member concerned. So that brings us on to item 21, the Special Speed Limit Bylaw 2025, Distributor Road to junction with Barnwell Road.
Thanks very much, Mayor. This is as a result of the new Barnhill Road. It has been presented to the Dublin 15 Area Committee meeting. It's a road where you have a 60 going into a 50, then a 60 again. There's no houses on the road, so it just doesn't make sense for it to be 60, 50 and a 60. So the proposal is a special speed limit of 60 on that particular portion of the road. There's been no objections to the proposed increase, and it has been presented to the Castleknock-Mulhother area meeting, but it's a reserved function of the council. It's looking for a proposer and a seconder.
So the resolution is that, sorry, I'll read the resolution, we'll get those proposals seconders again. Fingal County Council, in exercise with the powers conferred on it by Section 9 of the Road Traffic Act 2004, number 44 of 2044, and Section 86 of the Road Traffic Act 2010, number 25 of 2010, and Section 22 of the Road Traffic Act 2016, number 21 of 2016, and following consultation with An Garda Síochána, makes the following special speed limit bylaw 2025. Proposed speed limit increase from 50 kph to 60 kph at L7011 from Ongar Distributor Road to junction with Barnwell Road, R149. Is that agreed? Agreed. Right. We have flavours of, item 22, flavours of Fingal planning licence, and that's been discussed at the area committees. We can have a present. There's no presentation on it, so we have to proposer and a seconder. Yeah. Proposed Councillor Mulligan, seconded Councillor Kelly, and that's agreed. Agreed. Item 23, Fingal Artist Support Scheme 2025 for professional Fingal artists. We've a presentation from Sarah O'Neill. Oh, the report. Sorry, okay. The list, okay, perfect. So, I kind of proposed, seconded Councillor McCamley. Agreed? Agreed. Item 20. So, congratulations to everybody who was successful. Item 24, Summer Projects Funding 2025. Proposed. Sorry, we've Councillor High.
Thanks. I just was looking there. I think there's only one successful application from the Holtmalahide area out of around 40. So just wondering, was there more expressions of interest from any others groups in Holtmalahide, and why they might have got tripped up, and if they could be assisted in the future? So just wondering. Thank you.
I don't have the exact number of applications in front of me here, but I can check that out. But I do know that any of them that did make a submission would have been assisted, some quite significantly, with their application by the team from the community department. So we always do work with groups to make sure that we, maximise their chances of being successful under programs like this. But I can follow up the exact details on that and come back to you with a direct response.
So is Oh, Councillor McCamley.
For the list and to wish everybody on the list a very happy summer projects.
Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to thank the Chief Executive, I did put in a question in today's meeting, and absolutely delighted with the response to see the progress being made in supporting summer projects over the years. So it goes to show how progressive, the council has been in engaging young people, especially during the summer months. And once again, to say thank you.
Did we get a proposer in a second? Proposed. Seconded, Councillor McCamley. Agreed? Agreed. Item 25, Climate Action Plan Progress Report. And we have a report from Ms. Loughlin.
Good afternoon, councillors. We're bringing you an overview of the progress on the Climate Action Plan 24 to 29, the first year progress for 2024. We have a short presentation. We can take some questions at the end, and Bridget, who is our Climate Action Coordinator, will be running through the progress. Thank you.
Okay. So just a reminder of why we have a climate action plan. It was adopted in February 2024, and it outlines a pathway to transition to low carbon climate resilient Fingal, and we are obliged every year to produce an annual report on our implementation of what actions we've done. And just to remind you why we're doing this, the total emissions on the Fingal County Council area was 1.6 million tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent, and that's what we're hoping to reduce. So just a reminder of the plan. The plan has 4 key target areas that we are seeking to take action under. First of all, the Climate Action Plan is clearly rooted in both national and climate action goals and legal obligations, and it's aligned with 2 major pieces of legislation and policy instruments, and that is the Climate Act, the Climate Action and Low Carbon Development Amendment Act of 2021 and the National Climate Plan of 2023. This mandates 4 core target areas. First of all, a 50% improvement in the Council's energy efficiency by 2030 and a 51% reduction in the Council's greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. It also mandates building a climate resilient Dublin region and mandates us to actively engage and inform communities on climate action. So the plan itself then has, just a reminder, 162 specific actions covering 6 key themes. And we also have within the plan an outline of the decarbonisation zone, which is Balbriggan. So the thematic areas are energy and buildings, transport, flood resilience, nature-based solutions, circular economy and resource management and community engagement. So just to remind you then of the actions in the plan, we have 4 types of actions in the plan, and the first action deals with the full accountability. So I suppose, again, the focus of this plan is making Fingal a low carbon and climate resilient county. So there's an area of full accountability is to assist in the delivery of the objectives through decarbonising our own operations, reducing carbon emissions and improving energy efficiency in the Council's operations, properties, facilities and fleets. And then the other 3 areas, the influencing, coordinating and facilitating and advocacy, is working through communities on in improving how they do their business. So areas that we might consent or where we give funding to make sure that it all aligns with climate action. Okay. I've lost my doodah. Yeah.
Okay. Just quickly then, in terms of governance and leadership, in 2024 we established the Climate Action Unit, and you can see there that the Climate Action Unit is composed of the Climate Action Coordinator, that's me, the Climate Action Officer, which is Niamh Moran, and the Community Climate Action Officer, which is Sinead Fox. We work day to day on the plan, and we report to the Climate SPC with updates as required. And then, I suppose, steering us and governing us is the Climate Action Steering Group, and that's made up of the Chief Executive, Senior Management Team, the SEO and Environment, which is Catherine, and myself and the Climate Action Officer, and we meet with them twice a year. But we also then have the Climate Action Plan Implementation Team, and this is made up of staff from each of the departments, and they're senior staff, SEO or Senior Engineer, and they are nominated by the Director of Service across the organisation, and we meet 4 times a year, and we discuss the actions that they're carrying out, and the purpose of my unit is to support that team in carrying out the actions and doing their actions. We also then have to report annually to the CCMA on the KPIs, and there's new KPIs for climate action plans which have been introduced nationally. Okay. So our action status. So first of all, the reporting period is from February 2024 to December 2024. As I said, there's 162 actions in the plan. 95 of them are recurring. So that means there's 95 actions which we do every single year. There's a work programme devised, and we have to report on that work programme every year. 91 actions were completed in 2024, and 83 of those actions occur annually with an annual work programme. 46 actions are in progress, and 25 actions have not started. Now, although the actions have not started, they may not well be scheduled to start. This is a 5-year plan. Okay. So then I thought I'd go through the thematic areas and just talk about the progress of the plan. My mouse has gone AWOL. Okay, energy and buildings. We have a 54.8% improvement in energy efficiency in the buildings, and bearing in mind that our target is 50% by 2030, so Fingal has met and exceeded its energy efficiency in buildings. We are 44.9% reduction in greenhouse gases, and our target for that is 50% by 2030. So again, we're getting close to meeting that target. The public lighting in Fingal is 100% converted to LEDs. That means that 35,315 environmentally friendly LEDs across the Fingal area. The sustainable energy community, we have 31 sustainable energy communities in Fingal. 20 are active and 11 are dormant, and we're hoping to work with them this year to try and get those that are dormant up and running. In the LEO grant application to the small and medium enterprise sector in 2024, 7 energy efficiency grants and 35 green for business consultancy grants. And then under the area of conservation, there's been 37 projects funded under various funding streams such as Stitch in Time, Built Heritage Investment Scheme, and the Historic Structures Fund. Now, under the theme of transport then, so I just should mention, we have a whole report that goes behind this, which I believe you will have got. It's 102 pages. I'm only ticking out a few projects under each theme, so please read the whole 102 pages. In terms of transport then, we've done some protected cycleways. We have 2 large schemes completed in 2024 by the Active Travel Unit, and a number of other schemes are in detailed design. The Safe Routes to School programme has progressed. Round 1 to 5, there's 5 schools, and in round 2, the consultants have been commissioned to progress design concepts for schools in round 2. In terms of supporting mobility and behavioural change, 82 bicycle stands, 32 toast rack stands, and 34 scooter racks have been installed. 26,000 bike share journeys across Fingal in 2024, and 8 mobility and e-mobility schemes have taken place across the local authority. The EVCP, Electric Vehicle Charger I can't remember what the P stands for, sorry, operator has been appointed in 2024, and they're hoping to do 200 electric vehicle charging points at 50 areas across the 4 Dublin local authorities. 100 electric vehicle charging points at various Fingal County Council depots and staff car parks, and 40% of our current commercial fleet is converted to electric vehicles. So they're the progress under the transport theme. Under the flood resilience team, a coastal flood risk and erosion management plan has been developed and submitted to the Maritime Area Regulatory Authority. 2 minor schemes have been completed and others are in progress. The Fingal X Heritage Project has commenced, and they're out every fortnight, carrying out assessments, and this year they're focusing on coastal heritage sites. A householder's guide to sustainable urban drainage, managing rainfall more naturally in Fingal, has been developed. We've also purchased a model, which actually comes under next year's report, but very nice model. 12 sites have been identified for the removal and relocation of flood defence features to increase the capacity of rivers and estuaries to deal with flooding. Then under the nature-based theme, the wildfire management strategy for Hoth Head has been progressed. That's the goats and other items. We have the design of a pilot project on biodiversity housing in Malahide has progressed. 7 parks retained the green flag, 2 community gardens retained the community award, and the Ops Department has been supporting local biodiversity plans by a number of initiatives such as planting trees, developing open community orchards, and facilitating a variety of managed grassland regimes, so the reduced cutting in May and so forth. ArborTrack has been developed, has been supported by the Parks Department, which has been identifying planting locations for this year. There's 3 public allotments and 5 community gardens. Under the circular economy, the Green Public Procurement Strategy was adopted at the very early start of 2024. Water audits and waste management review has happened in 31 community centres. 18 public water drinking stations have been installed. The Future Fingal Economic Development Strategy was adopted in 2024. And then 167 bikes were collected, repaired and reused, and 1,619 litres of paint was collected and upcycled. The very successful Replay Instruments project has repaired and relocated 60 instruments last year, and the Events Unit has developed a guide for sustainable events. Then in terms of community engagements, there have been 2 home energy clinics across the county. They actually took place in 2024 during Dublin Climate Action Week. The Green Dublin Climate Action Week happened, obviously, and we had 45 events, and for those of you that are unaware, on your desks, you have this year's programme for Dublin Climate Action Week, and we have about 20 events happening across the county and 20 across Fingal and 70 across County Dublin. The Green Skills subgroup of the Fingal strategy convened. In terms of the sports grants, there was 34 sustainability initiatives carried out. In terms of staff training, all new staff are now trained, giving a climate action training. And then in terms of climate literacy training, 10 schools with 263 students and 10 teachers took part. And then the very popular Community Climate Action Fund, 1.2 million for 25 projects across the county. Just to remind you then of our decarbonisation zone, which actually is Balbriggan. What have we done in that? The plan identified a range of climate measures, and the purpose of the decarbonisation zone is to try out things and see how they work, make mistakes, learn and move on. So what we've done so far in the decarbonisation zone is we've a register of opportunities, so we've things that we can do. We're now moving on to the implementation plan, and that has kicked off in conjunction with an EU-funded project, E2 Cuties, which stands for Engaged Energy Communities in Urban Areas with Technology Integrated Energy Systems. And we're doing that with the SEC in Balbriggan, and we hope to identify projects for the SEC in Balbriggan and also training for the SECs in Balbriggan as part of our DZ zone. Thank you.
Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you. Congratulations on all the work. Go straight into it. Skerries Mills. Skerries Mills is the original sustainable energy project. We still have our own water wheel. We have our own windmill. We recently got an SAI energy report. It's 100,000 to get the water wheel going again, the water mill, and it's 300. These are estimates. 300 grand to get the windmill going again. We've 40,000 electricity bill. I would like that Skerries Mills to be set up as an educational project of sustainable energy to show what we can do, what we did in the past, 1,200 years ago, right up to future. Maybe have a model windmill there, a scaled down one. But in the first instance, we need to bring it back to sustainable energy and get rid of our ESB bill. And why not do it? So why am I raising it? I'm asking you, is there any funding sources, or how can we do it either on the education end and or on the practical end, to save the money? Are there any plans for Fingal to get engaged directly using our own extensive land bank to generate sustainable energy. Why aren't we putting solar panels in certain places? We've huge land banks. Why aren't we doing it ourselves? And is there scope to do it anywhere? I've raised this before. I could suggest locations, but I won't say. Skerry, flood relief scheme, Skerries, is it on? I know it's gone on forever. The OPW have a plan to do something in Skerries. Are you aware of it? I'm just raising again, trying to highlight it, to get a move on it. So there's an area in Skerries to get regularly flooded near the graveyard and blocks off Skerries Mills. And if you don't have the answer today, that's fine. But if you could give me an answer later. Thank you.
Councillor Boland.
Thank you. I just a question. In the context that my recollection is that when the mill was opened some 25 years ago, both the wheel and the sails worked. Why were they allowed to fall into disrepair? And if there was an economic reason or a logical reason, why would we be restarting them? Although I'd love to see them back working, but there's no point if we can't manage them, what we're spending the money for.
Councillor Burchell.
Thanks, Chair. I commend the council for the work they're doing, internally and with communities to try and bring down our greenhouse gas emissions. Obviously, some brilliant projects, a lot of effort. Unfortunately, our efforts will be in vain. They will be dwarfed by, the greenhouse gas emissions from industry. Specifically, I'm talking about data centres as one example. Fingal is a hotspot, literally, for data centres. There's maybe 4 major ones within a mile of my house. These vast energy consumption monsters, dwarf anything we will try to do here. So effectively corporations are deciding our climate policies. Communications is very important. The internet it should be a massive advance for humanity, but in practice, under capitalism and under the for-profit model, there's a huge amount of worthless and damaging communication and traffic, advertising, conspiracy theories, far-right agitation, pornography. They will communicate whatever's the most profitable thing to communicate. And our huge amounts of energy and water are being consumed in order to, allow those damaging communications to take place. So, brilliant internal work and work with communities from Fingal, but we have to look at the bigger picture here, and the context in which we're operating, and Fingal's attractive location for the major corporations and their data centres, which are very poor return for, even in terms of jobs, for the size of the installations. Thanks.
Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the report. I suppose I try not to be too negative, and there's a huge amount of work being done, particularly at a community level, but I have to echo what the last speaker was saying. I suppose this is not enough. Not nearly enough, doesn't even scratch the surface. So I just want to ask you specifically about, there was a number there, 1.6 million tonnes of carbon. Can you just clarify to me, is that the whole of Fingal that was 2025? What were we at 2024, and what is the target for 2029? Does that include Dublin Airport, which is about 1 million tonnes a year? So if we're at, I think you said 1.6, is that including the airport? But critically, I suppose I would like to know, what do we start at 2024? What's our target for 29? And are we going to get there with this action plan? Thanks.
Councillor Butler.
Yeah, no, thanks a million for the plan, and thank you all for the work you do. Just as you mentioned, the bikes and refurbishing them, yeah, I know that was very successful, but I was up in the Estuary Recycling Centre a few weekends ago, and I did notice a whole lot of bikes in the metal recycling container or whatever, or skip or whatever, for want of a better word. I just want to check, are they rescued and recycled, or are they kind of looked at before they go into it and disposed of? Thank you.
Councillor Healy.
For Margaret Vera, and thanks to Ms McLaughlin and Ms Donovan for the report. And certainly 100 pages is showing the extent of the work that's happening. And it's very important work. Could I just ask in relation to one aspect, the figure 7, the implementation status, shows that we've made good progress in starting on almost all areas, but nature-based solutions kind of jumps out as not yet having started 11 out of the 19 actions. And I'm just wondering, is there a capacity issue or a resourcing issue which is leading to the delay under that section? I mean, most of the other areas, you know, have started about 80 to 90% of their actions, and this is the only one which has started less than half. Thanks very much.
Councillor McCamley.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the report, and thanks, Bridget, for all the work that's been done with you and your staff. Just want to say, I don't know whether it would be you or not, but you know, when you're talking about EVCPs, as you say, you know, the electric points, like I live in an area where nobody has a garden, but yet people want to buy electric cars, but there aren't enough electric points around. And I have known people who have put up electric points outside their door and were told to take them down because obviously they were on a public pathway. So that is a problem for people, I'd say, in apartments and people like myself who haven't got a front garden. And I don't know what we could do about that, but we really do need to have public electric points in every estate, I think, maybe going forward. Another thing would be on flooding. I always think that people who concrete over their garden are contributing to flooding in their area because we don't have that soak-up in gardens, and people who use false grass in their gardens. And it's just a little thing, but when, you know, there should be something in the planning that says to people, if you have a garden, keep your garden, do you know? So these are little things that I think would help climate action plan. And also I'm going to piggyback on something that David Healy said at the last meeting, and that was about doing solar panels on planning on parking areas where cars can park under the solar panels. Like if you go down the Cruise Rat Road in Damstown, where I live, there are only thousands of parking spaces in the pharma buildings. And I often think that's an awful waste of land where all those cars are parked in that, and they could have solar panels over those cars, and that would be another issue. And I know they're private companies, but it's something that when planning comes around, that there might be, the council might instruct businesses to do. Thank you.
Councillor Newman.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks very much for the presentation. Certainly have to commend you for all the work that's gone on. There's quite a lot there. Probably have one or two questions on things, but certainly from what's within the council's remit, I think you have you've quite a long list there, and you're working well into that. And you know, in the community and everything else in the community centres, I think you're doing a great job. You know, there's probably many, you know, reasons people can say, well, why are we doing this when maybe we have Russia creating bombs and bombing the place, hello Ukraine and Palestine, and there are lots of contrary things to what's happening, what we're trying to do. But there's no realistic and reasonable reason for the council not to do what they're doing. So, you know, I applaud you for what you're doing, and I think you should keep on doing it. Just on the two buildings here, I say here in County Hall and in Blanchardstown, I mean, I would say we leak a lot of heat out of these buildings. And, you know, I'm just wondering, are our controls sophisticated enough to achieve the savings that you would like to achieve? You did put up a figure that you're happy with what you've achieved to date. But, you know, is there scope there maybe to provide some more sustainable form of heating? I don't know if we're still on gas or something like that. But between the two buildings, what is actually, how much more can we do to make sure that we're safe in here as well? Thanks.
Councillor Walsh.
Thanks very much for the report, and I just want to acknowledge all the work that's been done by the Environment, Climate Action, Active Travel, by the council generally. I think the council has really stepped up in the last few years, and there's a really impressive amount of work being done. I just maybe highlight 2 points. The first, I want to really strongly agree. Sorry, guys, if that's okay. Yeah, I really want to really strongly agree with Councillor McCamley. We really need the charging network for electric cars is still hopelessly inadequate. Just be interested in any views that you have, or that indeed any of the, if any other, if Director of Services have a view on it. I think we need to be more interventionist and more rigorous in enforcing that there should be charging points in every estate across the county. I think that's a minimum. It's a minimum requirement. It's not enough by itself, but it should be seen as a minimum requirement. I think then on circular cities, I'm just encouraged by the amount of attention given to various projects under circular cities. Just wondering, is there any what's planned in terms of the circular city, implementing the circular cities actions over the next couple of years? I mean, I've just looked at quite a lot of what's there. Are there more projects? Is there more that can be done in terms of decarbonising zones? I saw the Balbriggan decarbonising zone mentioned. And is there more that can be done in terms of involving local communities through the URBACT mechanisms? And finally, I think it is worth calling out the level of work being done in the last few years by local community groups and biodiversity. It is really, I think there's been very good support provided by the council to that, and we need to do everything we can to encourage and partner with those groups. Thanks.
Councillor Quinn.
I'd like to thank for an extensive presentation. I just want to raise one issue that Councillor McCanley has spoken on Walsh, and Councillor Walsh as well. But in relation to forward planning and the taking in charge of estates, some estates, or many estates that have been built in the last 15, 20 years have on-street parking, my estate being one of them. And the difficulty in getting permission to be able to put up a charging point is causing real concern in these estates. Now, in the taking in charge process, is it possible to retrospectively go back to look to get charging points put in by the developer, or can we go forward from now to insist on planning applications to have charging points within estates and the opportunity for ducting for charging at houses? Thank you.
Okay. Do you wish to come?
Okay, I'll start. And then maybe some of the directors can come in for some of the areas, and Bridget and Catherine. Councillor Leary, just on the solar panels, it is an action within the action plan to look at solar panels on council-owned land. There is a provision, or there is a proposal in relation to Rogerstown Park that we've done a feasibility study on. So we look at that, but there is then for council-owned lands to look at that in the lifetime of the plan. In relation to the flooding scheme in Skerries, the situation that is the same. It's with the OPW. They haven't come back with a recommendation in relation to that, so it's not one of their schemes that are to be delivered any time soon. Councillor Burchell, in relation to data centres, one of the things I would say is that the council is doing is in provision of district heating, we have the scheme that's proposed, which will provide a district heating network for the sports campus, the hospital and the college, and then on to social housing. And that will be a start in relation to the Amazon and Equinox data centres that are out there. But obviously, if the funding is made available, that can be extended to other data centres and be made available for housing and industry in the area. So I'm expecting an announcement from the department in relation to funding for the use of waste heat from data centres over the next couple of months. Just in the bike refurbishment, those bikes go to Ballymun from the recycling centres and are assessed then for refurbishment. The nature-based solutions, I know Bridget mentioned about the leaflet that is available for people to be used, and that's given out to all residents. So Councillor McCamley, that when people are doing that, there is a leaflet available to encourage people not to pave over their driveways. Charge points, The councillors probably are aware that the Dublin Fingal led on the charge point strategy, the EV strategy for the region, and in that there's a provision for 3,800 chargers across the county or across the region. Okay, so we've appointed ePower as our Dublin provider, and they're providing 200 chargers at 50 locations. In relation to the residential, we're waiting on further guidance from the department in relation to residential chargers for local housing estates. I know as part of the forward planning or as planning control that it is allowed for in new planning applications, but it's in the older estates that has to be addressed, and we're waiting for further advice from the department in relation to that. I've talked about the solar panels. County Hall, the energy, I might ask Mary Egan to come in on that. And the decarbonisation zone. The decarbonisation zone is in Balbriggan, and we've been asked to identify one for every county, or one decarbonisation in every county across the 31 local authorities. The idea is to try and reduce emissions by 7% per year in each of those in the decarbonisation zones. And obviously then, if that is successful, that should be rolled out to other locations in local authority areas. But obviously funding will need to be sourced from the department in relation to that. I think the things I haven't dealt with are Skerries Mills and maybe the County Hall, and I know Councillor Hopkins, you had a question about the emissions. So John, I might just reference for Skerries Mills.
So there's a couple of questions. From Councillor O'Leary on Skerries Mills. Identification of funding, like all of our heritage properties, members will know from me, over the last couple of years in the revenue and capital programmes, we simply do not have adequate provision in our capital transfers to cover. And maybe there's opportunity for Skerries Mills in particular in some climate pots of funds. We'll certainly take that away. But Councillor Boland asked about the maintenance of the sail arms, and we did do a restoration project on one of the sail arms a couple of years ago, and we are looking at the rest of those sail arms. But again, like all of our heritage properties, sourcing of funding is a real challenge. But if there are avenues, Mr. Story, you might point me towards them. Thank you.
I think the emissions.
Yeah, just in terms of the emissions, that's the Fingal area, not just the area that Fingal County Council, and the baseline figure goes back to 2023. We don't have the emission numbers this year because we haven't got that calculation, but we are required to improve our energy efficiency by 51% and reduce our greenhouse gases by 50% by 2030. But I don't have the figures because we don't have them for this year. Yeah. The target for 2030 is 50% reduction in greenhouse gases and 51% reduction in energy efficiency. Improvement, yeah. Well, no, for the local authority, the area of the local authority. This plan is for our local authority. Okay, sorry, the 1.6 million tons, that's for the whole Fingal area, of the whole county. Okay. Yeah, I think it's... Yeah, well, there's a climate action plan that covers the whole country, and the same targets exist, so I suppose we do. And then in terms of the nature-based solutions, while only 11 of the 19 actions, a lot of them are not due to be done until 25, 26 and 27. So while they haven't been finished this year, a lot of them are happening next year and in following years. And then in terms of the circular cities, Circular Cities plan is still in development, and it should be finished this year, and projects will come out. So I do urge you to read the entire report, because everything is reported in there. Thank you.
Mary, you might just come in on the buildings.
Yeah, thank you. And Councillor Newman was asking about the continued improvements in the council's main buildings. I suppose we work with Codima, who act as the energy advisor for the 4 Dublin local authorities, and they support each council in influencing how we achieve our low carbon transition by improving energy efficiency and incorporating renewables and renewable technologies into our buildings. The Council have also, in conjunction with Codema, entered into an energy performance contract, which kind of guarantees the level of energy performance over the contract and the ability to part fund the project through the energy cost savings. We also have achieved ISO 5000 certification, and again that means meeting specific requirements in how the energy management system is run, how energy use is measured, and how it's documented and reported, and how equipment is procured and systems in place that impact on energy performance. So through all of those mechanisms, we will continue to achieve our energy performance targets and maintain or improve on them as we go forward into on to 2030. Thank you.
Just Mayor, finally, just want to thank Bridget and the team, and obviously Climate Action Week, which was launched today, so lots of events for people to attend. One thing I would say is the Climate Action Community Fund was really successful. We had 1.2 million for 25 communities. That will be launched, I'm expecting, sometime in June. So Councillor O'Leary, there's an opportunity for a project like Skerry's Mills or any other projects to make submissions. But there's 5 targeted items that they have to achieve as part of their application. But I can speak to any of the councillors separately on that. Thanks.
So that's noted. Great, thank you. Where are we now? We are item number 26, the draft strategic policy committee standing orders and the Fingal County Council standing orders. And I want to just get a brief presentation with emphasis on where the changes are and the reason for the changes. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And as members will be aware, we have brought the draft SPC standing orders through CPG and OPNF. Sorry, just go back to the second slide, please. The guidelines were issued in June of 2024 by the department, which established separate standing orders for SPCs, and up until now, councillors will be aware that the standing orders for SPCs were incorporated into our main standing orders that govern all of our meetings. But now we have created a draft set of standing orders specifically for the SPCs, and they are obviously they follow and are in line with our own overarching standing orders that govern all of our meetings. So as I said, we have brought these draft standing orders to CPG, recommended by the CPG, also to the OPNF in April, and they were approved there. So now we're here this evening for your consideration and hopefully for adoption. And what do they cover? They cover the frequency of the meetings of the committees, the committee meeting times and duration, quorums for each of the meetings, for each of the 7 SPCs, order of business, membership, and visitors and attendance of media. And I suppose to answer your question, Mayor, the main changes are in relation to the latest date for submission of motions for inclusion on the agenda is 5 weeks before the date of the meeting. And that's as part of the guidelines. So then the final agenda and the draft minutes are to be issued to the members 4 weeks before the date of the meeting. So in order for us to meet that objective in the guidelines, we have to have latest submission for the motions set for 5 weeks out from the meeting. So then you get the agenda and the draft minutes will be issued to all the members 4 weeks before the date of the meeting. And then the report packs will be issued 2 weeks ahead of the date of the meeting. So those are
I suppose the main changes in terms of the guidelines is that there's a good lead-in time in terms of the agenda and the draft minutes being issued to members 4 weeks ahead. Then in relation to the quorum and quorum for the different SPCs, so there will be 4 members, 2 of whom have to be councillors for each of the 6 SPCs listed there, and then 5 members, 2 of whom shall be councillors for the housing SPC, because the housing SPC has a larger membership than the other 6. Again, this was all agreed by yourselves when you adopted the scheme in just after the local elections last year. Just go on to the next slide, Sarah, thanks. So the chairperson must be an elected member, and at the meeting of the committee, the chairperson shall preside, the same as any other of our meetings. And if the chairperson is absent from the meeting, the members of the committee shall select a member from among the councillors in attendance to preside as acting chairperson. Again, that's in accordance with our own standing orders and how we operate the chair. It covers the order of business, confirmation and adoption of minutes, headed items, business submitted by the Chief Executive, and motions from members. So that's the order of the business. And then our own, the main standing orders have been amended to reflect the changes that we are putting into the SPC standing orders. And those changes are largely the quorum and the meeting times. Yeah. And these amendments to our original standing, or our own standing orders, if you like, the main standing orders, are also require approval. I think, is that the last slide? And we have sorry, and I can take questions at this stage in relation to any of that. I think both standing orders have been circulated to all of you ahead of the meeting, obviously in your pack. And the changes to the main standing orders are in red text, just so that you can readily identify it. So it's there in terms of the names of some of the SPCs changed, again with the scheme that you adopted, and then the quorum is also the changes there.
Councillor Tormey.
Thank you very much, and apologies for missing the last meeting where this was discussed. We got an email to say that any edits or changes should be in by the 30th of May. Is it possible to submit things now? I've just submitted a motion to amend these, and the reason is, and I can't believe it didn't come up the last time, is I just think all SPCs should be at least hybrid to facilitate online attendance. I had a very unfortunate situation with my last SPC meeting where I got the date in January where it's all approved, the calendar for the first 6 months of the year, and I thought it would be online, and all of a sudden it became only in person, and there was no way I could get from my work, where I already had appointments in with families and people with significant issues, to get over to Blanchardstown, and that was not facilitated to be online attendance meeting, at least in a hybrid. So I just think it needs to go into standing orders that all the meetings should be at least hybrid, because for us to be coming in person to these on top of everything else that we have going on, especially in today's day after COVID, after the improvements in online meetings and everything that's happened, I think it's been a significant advancement that we can now do all the briefings online for everything, but that we can't do SPCs in hybrid. My last SPC, all the last term, was basically only online, and it worked perfectly. And so I've submitted an amendment to 32B to say that all strategic policy committees shall meet in a hybrid format to facilitate online attendance. And I also have another question as to what the history is as to why the housing SPC starts at 4 o'clock when all the others start at 4:30. Thank you.
Councillor Burchell.
Yeah, I'd support Councillor Tormey in that motion. Ideally, you should be there in person, but you know, we all have busy lives, and you know, sometimes we can't make it, and the hybrid option certainly facilitates, you know, that. So I think it should be an option. I don't know if there's an issue with maybe you have a quota of hybrids you're allowed to attend every year or something like that, but personally, you know, the housing SPC is in Blanchardstown. It suits me, you know, I can attend easily enough, you know, it's close by. But I appreciate that, you know, from my own experience in other meetings, that the hybrid option can certainly, you know, be a lifesaver at times. So I'd support Councillor Tormey in that.
Councillor Newman.
Probably have a bit of a stupid question, but I might as well ask it. Emergency motions, I don't know if they'd ever come up at an SPC, but is there provision for that? Also, I presume the standing orders with regards to speak and who speaks first, like the people in the room speak first and then people online come in, is it the same procedure for SPCs? I favour physical meetings as much as possible. I do take into consideration not everybody can make it. We all got busy lives with everything that's going on, you know, but I do feel that it will probably lead to more, I think, better communication. I don't have a problem with the hybrids being on them, and you know, they work quite well, but I feel we need to be in a room with the officials to try and iron out the situation. I think it leads to a better system all around, but with a facility to, you know, facilitate people that just cannot make it and want to be coming on hybrid for whatever reason. Thanks.
Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, thanks, Mary, for the presentation. I'd be supportive of hybrid meetings, and currently the community SPC meets in Blanchardstown, which suits me, and I'm happy to attend it. But I don't think it's necessarily reasonable to ask councillors from Swords or Malahide or Howth to drive across the county to Blanchardstown for it. Certainly the community SPC had met completely online. That probably had moved the balance a little bit too far in the other direction, but I think hybrid meetings are sensible. Certainly for the Dublin 15 Area Committee, the meetings are hybrid. That now works quite well, and I don't see any reason why the SPCs would be different from the Area Committee.
Councillor Mulligan.
Thanks, Mayor. I think in terms, it's not in the standing orders, or at least I couldn't see it in the draft, is that I think councillors who look to be on a specific SPC should be afforded to an allocation on an SPC before another councillor is added to an SPC for a second time. So there was a situation where I'm on an SPC now, coastal and marine, and I'm not, and don't live in a coastal area, and don't represent an area, the marine or coastal biodiversity. Happy to be on an SPC. I'd rather weigh in an area that affects my geographical location, but there are councillors who are on two SPCs, and they are SPCs like housing and community development, which I most certainly could be on and actually give feedback based on the area I represent, whereas my only allocated SPC is the one that I'm entitled to. Everyone's entitled to one, but I do think before we divvy out a second SPC to councillors, everyone's first SPC should be one of the ones they listed in the preferences when asked in the first instance, when there was members who were on two SPCs, both of which in all instances I requested to be on and didn't get an allocation. So I mean, I'm just using myself as an example. I think you should be allocated a preference before someone is allocated a second preference if you don't have an SPC in the first instance when you're allocating them at the start. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? I couldn't clarify it in standing orders, but I hope it makes sense to someone.
Councillor O'Leary.
Yep, just want to briefly support what my colleague said, Councillor Tormey, if it's possible, and I don't see why not, that we have the SPCs if required, hybrid. Thank you.
Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm of a view that the SPCs are extremely important committees, and if they operate the way they should, they have been kind of given to us by kind of the national government, by the department. These are very important things nationally. In my view, membership of such an important committee requires a greater commitment than for somebody just to turn on a computer in the room. I think there's an absolute need for collegiality, for meeting up together, meeting people, getting to know officials, the people who are neither officials or councillors, who are attending, outside bodies. All of these people are kind of don't expect to be on a committee with people they've never met and never likely to meet if their only engagement with a committee is to turn on a laptop. So I'd be opposed to that change.
Councillor Gearan.
Yeah, Chair, I really think that we have benefited hugely with the introduction of hybrids, and it has meant that people who aren't able to get to a particular place for a meeting will at least can get to the meeting and make their contributions and so on and so forth. I don't think a lot of people will go to every meeting on hybrid, but I do think it's hugely important, and more important that people have access to a meeting where they're members so they can make a contribution. And I think that's far more important that they can do that hybridly than not to be able to make that contribution. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
Just ask Ms. Egan to come in and clarify some of the issues that have been raised.
Yeah. Standing Order 20 in the draft SPC standing orders states all SPC meetings shall be held virtually or at such other place as the chairperson or the meetings administrator may decide. So I think that probably covers what people have been.
So essentially, virtually or includes you can do hybrid meetings at the discretion of the chair, at discretion of the. Have we a motion in to change that to making that hybrid must be included?
Is what has come in, and we can, I don't know, can we put it on the screen? And it's in relation to the main standing orders of the full council rather than the draft SPC standing orders. And the standing order 32B says that, sorry, it's up there now. Strategic policy committees shall meet quarterly at 4:30 to conclude at 6:30 p.m. or at a time agreed by the committee, except for the Housing Strategic Policy Committee, which starts at 4 and concludes at 6. And then the amendment is all strategic policy committees shall meet in a hybrid format to facilitate online attendance.
No. Do you wish to deal with this motion first and then address all of the other issues that have been raised, or we can go with this one first as arisen, yeah? Okay, so if we pass, this is in relation to the full council meeting. I think we'll require an amendment to the SPC standing orders as well. Councillor Tormey.
When you just click on Modern Gov for the document that comes up for this item, it brings you to the full standing orders. So is there a separate then SPC standing orders document that we should have been sent?
There were two documents circulated in the pack: the draft SPC standing orders, and then the main standing orders. with the suggested amendments that need to be made as a result of adopting the draft SPC standing order. So you should have 2 documents in your pack. And the main standing orders have the text in red that is with the proposed changes. And then obviously the SPC standing orders is a separate document.
I think it is important that we get it correct. Councillor Dennison, are you coming in relation to the it hasn't been proposed yet, so we're just going to. So we'll take that for the we'll take the debate to the full council, the amendment to the full council, and then depending on the outcome there, we'll either need another change to the SPC standing orders in order to facilitate it. So, Councillor Tormey, do you want to propose that amendment to full council standing orders?
Sorry, I just see the error that I made. Yeah, I want to propose it to the full council standing orders, and then I have to just come up with a new one now?
We'll deal with that depending on the outcome of the debate. There's no point in having it a separate.
No need to have 2 motions. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So I'd like to propose that, please. I don't think I need to go over. I kind of just gave my contribution.
Is there a seconder for that? Seconded, Councillor Humphreys. And now we're looking for. Do you want to speak on your? Do you want to speak any further? Councillor Newman.
What are the information, whatever you like to call it?
Anybody can speak now on this proposal.
Fine, yeah,
so yeah.
good, yeah. No, just in the SPC orders, it said the chairperson has kind of discretion with regards to having a physical meeting or hybrid, and that. So I would certainly disagree with the option being taken away from the chairperson that may want a physical meeting. So if we just have hybrid meetings, and the chairperson wants a physical meeting, so what do we do then? Thanks.
So my understanding that this this amendment would say that there's no discretion, that it has to be hybrid, which would be both physical and an online meeting. So it removes the discretion entirely from the chair of the meeting. I'll bring in Councillor Dennison. You come in as an point of order. You can come in again on the debate. Councillor Dennison.
Yeah, and not alone does it remove the decision from the chair, but also from the committee. For example, the Economic Development SPC would hopefully have a number of off-site meetings at various locations that might be of interest to the committee members. And if we have to provide hybrid facilities, well then obviously we can't do that. So I'd like to think that we could find ourselves in a position where all members of the committee would agree that a particular meeting would be at a particular location and that it would not be hybrid but in person. But that standing order might preclude that.
Councillor Gearan.
Thanks, Chair. I think it's better for the overall management that if there is one rule, and I think it could even be deemed as being unfair on particular chairs, that they be put under pressure or what they feel they have to make a decision. Whereas if we adopt it here in Council, if all the members agree on it, at least going forward there is a clear strategy that has to be followed. So therefore, people will be under no doubt that if they do wish to attend, that they can do that. And I think more importantly, it would be for better transparency and management of procedures. For instance, well, Gearan can't get online, can't get here, well, let's keep him offline because I don't want to hear what he has to say or whatever. So I do think in the interest of fairness and transparency, I think it's better that the guidance is given from the body council to the individual committee chairs. So I will be supporting that motion. Thanks.
Councillor Newman.
Sorry, did I press that again? Apologies, I didn't mean to press it again.
Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mayor. I know it's
Councillor Guerin says that there has to be consistency across all the committees. It can't be a case where one has one rule and the other has another, and the decision should rely on the main body of the council to make that decision. I'm supportive of the hybrid model, and any off-site meetings I'm sure could still be facilitated as fact-finding or an information briefing. I don't think it will limit the scope of any kind of off-site meetings that a chair might want to have. That it could be facilitated another way, but for the meetings themselves, I think it's important for the very fact that everyone in this room is considered part-time, or sorry, everyone on this side of the room is considered part-time. So there has to be that hybrid option for us.
Councillor Birchall.
Yeah, Councillor Ryan made the point that the SPCs are very important meetings, and they are. I agree with him, but you know, they're not the only important meetings, and other important meetings have the hybrid option. In person is preferred, absolutely. You know, it makes the business run better when you meet people face to face, but sometimes it's not possible for people to attend. But I think we need to have some faith in our councillors to, you know, attend when they can in person and take the hybrid option when they've, you know, when they cannot manage any other method. So I think that would be the way to go. Thanks.
Councillor Butler.
Yeah, listen, I'm not sure we need this motion or to get this sorted. I think we're all in agreement that, you know, our SPC committees are hybrid. Certainly the one I'm chair of is. So yeah, I think maybe we should just leave this for wording to come back that basically allows all the SPCs to be hybrid as they should be. There shouldn't be one out of sync with all the others, but also that maybe a slightly better wording than this is that also then allows for the off-sites, or for like occasionally the previous, you know, SPC I was on, we met in Balbriggan, or we met in Malahide Castle, and we did things like that. So I suppose the consensus should be, yeah, that all SPC meetings are hybrid, but whatever wording that we put in or we amend to, that allows somewhat flexibility for kind of off-site meetings.
Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I support the amendment. I do take the point that Councillor Ryan has made, that the SPCs are important, particularly important meetings, and I personally much prefer to attend an SPC meeting or any meeting face-to-face for exactly the reasons that Councillor Ryan has outlined. It's much better. I always feel that in somehow I'm a second-class participant when I'm online, but nonetheless, I think there's good reasons why members are sometimes unable to attend face-to-face, and members shouldn't be excluded if they're working full-time. It'd be a different thing if the government adopted the recommendation of the Citizens' Assembly, which I was a member, and made the councillor a full-time position, but that's not on the cards anytime soon. The reality is that many of us work two jobs, one of which is a councillor. Also, some members may have caring responsibilities for relatives, parents, for children, which prevent them at certain times from attending a meeting, sometimes at the last minute, and we need to be inclusive. I think that's really important. I think I didn't realise, actually, it was news to me. I needed to reread the standing orders, that it was at the discretion of the chair. I don't think that's a good idea. I think a consistent rule. I don't think SPCs should have completely variable practice. I think a consistent rule is advisable, and that's better for members of the committee. It's better for chairpersons as well. So if we can come up with a slightly different wording, fine, but I'm supportive of hybrid meetings. I think we've debated it many times through COVID and afterwards, and hybrid meetings are simply more inclusive, generally speaking.
Councillor Walsh. Councillor Ryan.
I mean, I made a point earlier in terms of my view, in terms of what these committees, how they should assemble. This amendment also prescribes a starting time. So it's more than just whether it's kind of in person or hybrid. And at a minimum, I think the committee itself should decide how it should meet. and I'd be happy enough to take the discretion of the chair out of it. But I think, given that there are more than councillors and officials on the committee, I think it ought to be a decision of the committee itself as to how it assembles and when it meets and the times, etc., to suit the committee itself.
Look, from my own point of view, I'm glad that we're having the debate to clarify it and that we've taken the time to go through it. And I think the difficulty is that many of us have is that we can see very strong arguments for many of the different points that are being made. There are strong arguments for instances where you might require a in-person alternative meeting. In relation to the existing strategic policy standing order said 4:30 to conclude, so the time is in there from the original one. The amendment that we're here in front of us removes the option of either online only or physical only meetings from any committee to adjudicate for itself. And the strength of that is that everybody who is on that committee knows that, and it makes it more inclusive. And the weakness of it is that it doesn't cater for special or for the special circumstances or the advantages of having either an all online meeting, if that's agreed by the committee, or or an all physical meeting from the same point of view. So that's kind of when I go around the houses that I come back to the supporting the status quo, and my strong preference would be that chairs would facilitate hybrid meetings wherever they can, but a chair is best placed to come up with what the viewpoint of any particular committee is and discuss it with all those people on it. We sometimes have difficulties in getting quorums for some of these strategic policy committee meetings, depending on the date, and it can be useful to have people who are able to attend remotely. But I think that's, in the spirit of devolvement of decision making, devolving it down to the committee isn't as unreasonable, despite the advantages that people have said about having one reel for everybody so that we know what's going on. So that's why I'll probably be voting against the amendment, and notwithstanding the strength, if anybody wishes to put one that we have all strategic policy meetings be physical, then they should do so. But again, it's going to be down to the members, and we can take the vote on it and make that decision. I'm going to allow Councillor Tormey to come back in and respond to the debate if she wishes to do so.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who contributed to this. I wasn't aware that other SPCs met differently. I was only going by my experience over the past term on the Climate Action SPC, where it was all just very much met once I think a quarter, and it was just online, and that was obviously at the discretion of the chair. Unfortunately, just when you're presented with inflexibility, that's why I think it's important that we have clarification on that, and it's given to the members to be able to do that. So I particularly welcome that contribution from Councillor Ryan in relation to that. So in relation to the Enterprise SPC or other SPCs that meet off-site, does that then, I don't want to put something in that's not actually feasible or a runner? Like, how many meetings happen outside of the calendar that we approve in January and July? To even know, if I can just get clarification on that, because I just don't think it's appropriate if there's meetings happening outside of Fingal buildings, like Swords or Blanchardstown. Obviously, that's not a runner. I thought all the meetings did happen between Swords and Blanchardstown.
I don't know if the manager was going to clarify. I think we'll just leave the debate as I don't really propose to bring Councillor Birchall or Councillor Ryan in, unless it's a point of order. Councillor Ryan. Councillor Ryan was first in, Councillor Ryan, but I don't propose we relitigate we have a motion before us, it's been closed out.
suggest a kind of a way forward, at least in the short term. We're all due to meet as SPCs kind of very soon in this thing, and very soon our next SPC is kind of scheduled. If we could have a discussion at those meetings across all of the SPCs and just chat about it generally, get a view from the committee members. Ms Egan has already announced that she is rolling out a review of standing orders generally, and after those next SPCs there's an opportunity for us to make more substantive changes. I wasn't expecting today in terms of having to deal with an amendment, so in terms of preparedness, looking at alternatives, what might be a better form of wording, I think it might be worthwhile to do as I suggested. Thank you.
So I'm going to bring, sorry, Councillor Birchall, did you have a point of order? Well, I mean, if Councillor Tormey doesn't want to prescribe, you could just simply change the words "shall offer" the option of hybrid format to the last one. It won't have any meaning. Then it's essentially what is already there in terms of if it's not, it's either prescriptive that there are always hybrid or that there's an option for somebody to decide otherwise, so that wouldn't change right here. So, Councillor Tormey, the motion is proposed and has been seconded and is, you know, before, so unless you're, and there's been some support for it, so do you, I think we, you know, realistically we're putting it to a vote. If anybody has a motion to defer this decision to another, then that's it. But I think we should deal with it now. There's a review of standing orders where we'll get a chance to deal with stuff again. We just...
PCs, are they all happening in either Swords or Blanchardstown? Like in terms of like the physical location?
I might just clarify
Yeah.
that, Mayor, if I may.
Oh, sorry, hold on a sec. Sorry, through the chair. So, I'm just dealing with something first before I take any point of order.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just read Standing Order 20 as it stands now in the draft SPC standing orders. So it says, all SPC meetings shall be held virtually or at such other place as the chairperson or meetings administrator may decide. Such other places may be at County Hall, Swords, Civic Offices, Blanchardstown, an external venue used to accommodate meetings of the Council, an electronic, digital or virtual location, web address or a conference call, telephone number or a combination of the above to provide the physical and or remote attendance by members, representatives of the committee.
So it always has to have an option for a hybrid possibly there. So it's all right. Okay. Councillor Murphy?
On standing orders, we have a proposer for a motion on the floor and a seconder, and we all have speaking opportunity once only, and we haven't once adhered to standing orders. We're now 20 minutes into the motion.
Correct. So we'll take.
So we need to move to business, Mayor.
Yeah, absolutely. So, or do you want to take a vote?
If it
Yeah. I think it's important to get it correct, so and get it correct in one go. So that's why there's been some leeway. The motion is before the floor. So is it agreed? Not agreed. So roll call vote. Okay, so just green is in favour of the motion, red is against. So green will allow for, there always have to be a hybrid motion. The chair can't have a physical only meeting.
The results of the vote are yes in favour 25, no against 8, abstain 0.
Chair, can we get clarification on this?
Certainly, yeah.
The vote's the vote, but does that mean a chairperson can't call a physical meeting then, yeah?
The chairperson can call a physical meeting, but there has to be a hybrid option. There always has to be a hybrid option.
That was always the case.
Yeah.
As far as I was concerned,
Yeah. So can we get the same amendment just sent in for the? Yeah, we can.
Sorry, just clarification, Mayor. I don't think I really got clarification on that. I'm sorry for being a bother.
Sorry
for being a bother, but does that mean that when you call a physical meeting and the council officials are there to discuss and debate and to give information, that they will come hybrid as well, yeah?
I'm not sure. I think we'll have to clarify that. Do council officials now? With the agreement, I think we should try and deal with it as quickly as well. Oh, you're going to draft the piece and come in? Yeah, yeah.
If it was okay with members, I think the consequence of the motion to change the standing orders of the council should be considered by ourselves. If there's a further amendment to the SBC needed, we'll bring it back in June.
Agreed? Agreed. Okay, thanks very much. Oh, sorry, yeah, we now have a number of other questions to answer in relation to standing orders.
Thank you, Mayor. So we've dealt with the questions in relation to the virtual meetings. Emergency motions are not provided for under the SBC standing orders because there's no need for emergency motions. I'll just read out the definition of the emergency motion, and for the purposes of urgent or emergency business related to a function of the local authority, and where, due to its seriousness or imminence of the matter, it gives rise to an unexpected, urgent or potentially dangerous situation requiring immediate action of the council. And as the SPCs deal with policy matters only, there is no need for an emergency motion at all. Speaking times and the order of the debate is the same as it is in the main standing orders. In relation, there was a couple of questions in relation to membership of the SPCs, and that is not covered by standing orders. That is covered by the scheme that was already adopted by yourselves shortly after the local elections. Times of meeting, and then that's it, I think. All of the rest of the questions were in relation to the virtual meeting.
Did you explain the 4 o'clock for the housing SPC? Chairperson, Mayor, can I just double check if my question in relation to the 4 o'clock start time for the housing SPC was answered?
Thank you, Chair, and I've been around a long time, but I can't answer that one. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know why they're different.
If we can get a proposer and seconder for the council, for the SPC standing orders on the Fingal County. Proposed Councillor Tormey, seconded Councillor Newman. Agreed? Agreed. And that was for the SPC. For the full council, proposed, seconded Councillor Tormey. Agreed? Yeah, with the amendment, yeah. Now we move on to item 27, the LCDC Annual Report 2024. Just for noting.
It's just for noting,
Yeah.
Mayor, that's the annual report that comes from the LCDC, so circulated to members with the pack, and it's for noting today.
Is that noted? Noted. Item 28, the Chief Executive's Report.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of things to highlight to you. Pleased to say the Kellystown Graveyard is on site. I know the Dublin 15 councillors were anxiously waiting for that day. So the contract's on site now. We'll deliver 650 plots by early next year, as well as columbarium wall. So just to note your patience, it's contractual and land ownership issues delay that project for some time. The Climate Action Week launched this morning. It's an event across Dublin. Our Fingal programme is on your desk. Just to say some really good events there. Bike Week is also happening this week too, so appreciate your attendance where you can. And then lastly, just to note the annual report for 2024 and the link to it in the Chief Executive's report, particularly for new councillors. It gives you a good summary of the activities last year, our financial position, our assets, etc. So just for information, it's useful to have it there, and you can read it at your leisure. Happy to take any questions.
So if there's no, Councillor Smith.
Just two brief ones. One in relation to the bring banks that you mentioned in the report. Has there been any contractual or operation difficulties in terms of the closing banks that have been experienced in other local authorities? Are we experiencing them here? And the other one was in relation to the events being held in Nugent's Hall, the Hunt Ball. I don't know if other councillors have received. I received a number of complaints with regards to the content of that. People against, and it's good to see a motion brought forward by another councillor here today regarding glorifying of blood sports, and others have had objections to it being used because of the legacy of the landed gentry in our country. My question is, in terms of any event like that, what kind of consultation occurs between the council executive and the facilitators, and to ensure that they're in line with our values of the council overall? Thank you.
Councillor O'Leary.
In light of a recent report, and I suppose negative media reports, on the accuracy of the electoral register, how are Fingal doing? I'm just asking. I didn't read it in much detail, but there's 11 councils highlighted as not doing well in that, and it would be concerning. And are we doing any work on that to make it more accurate? And I'm trying to find here. But anyway, I have a motion there. Tenant in situ has gone into non-statutory items, which I find strange, but that's what it is. So the tenant in situ, I'm very concerned that our funding appears to be cut in half. And are we going after more funding? I hope we are, and I certainly would support that. I'm basically shocked that that's the situation. Thought at a minimum funding would be maintained. There's huge demand for it. It's a great scheme. Let's keep it going while we're trying to build as much as we can. But I'm very concerned about it. Thank you.
Councillor Shovlin.
Yeah, thank you for the report, and it's great to see that Kellystown Cemetery has started. So well done everyone involved there. Just a few things. I note that other areas are taking part in a disposable cups initiative. I'm just wondering, is there any plan that maybe something similar could be rolled out in Dublin 15? Also, there was a recent road closure over our way, and just one of the points that was made to me by somebody was, newspapers, maybe not so many people are looking at them, and would there be a possibility of looking at putting the notice of that somewhere else as well? I'm not sure how exactly that works, but maybe something to bear in mind. And finally, just medical priority. I also had a query in terms of housing. Would it be possible to kind of get a breakdown of what would meet medical priority in the housing list? Because I have had a few people come to me about that recently. And just to commend operations as well for being so proactive in responding to graffiti issues in the area. Really well done. Thanks.
Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you. I just wanted to extend my gratitude to the operations team and the events team. We had a brilliant event in Baldoyle, the Biosphere Festival this weekend, and we just got obviously the funding and huge support, lots of last minute requests to the operations team, so I just want to extend my thanks to the Hope Malahide team. The day one of the 2-day programme is a schools programme, and it requires children to be on the water, so we have to get permission for the kids just to say that they can swim. And just to flag, we've seen an increase in the number of 5th class students who were unable to participate because they were not able to swim. So just to put everyone on notice, I know we only have a draft sports audit, but we do need additional swimming facilities and schools programmes for swimming, because it is a life skill. Also, just to congratulate and thank the Mayor for the civic reception for Swords, for their medal win, the Tidy Towns, very well done to them. And finally, just the tenant in situ scheme as well. I have a number of people who have contacted me in the last few weeks to say that applications they were progressing have stalled, or they're not getting responses from Fingal County Council. The Minister for Housing has responded to me saying that that should be referred back to the local council, that the funding should be available. So that's what he's saying, so I'd like your comments on that. Thank you.
Councillor Mulligan.
Thanks, Mayor. Just wondering, I've just a handful of questions. The first one, can the emergency motion which I requested to be on the agenda, which I'm not au fait why it was refused because I was a few minutes late to the meeting, be considered as part of the Chief Executive report under page 111, air noise section? And if that isn't the case, you can tell me why it's not the case. And then secondly, in regards to the tenant in situ scheme, I as well have a number of tenants, including some who are overholding on evictions, who with serious medical concerns and needs, and home care support needs, and advocate support needs, who haven't got any information in the same vein. So any help in that would be greatly appreciated. And I just want to thank the events team and operations team for all the work they've done over the last couple of weeks with the various communities around the area who held darkness into light in their respective areas over the weekend. The events team and operations teams were very forthcoming in prepping the areas that were being utilised for the event, and it was a very good success and raised hundreds of thousands across Fingal for Pieta House. So just want to thank the teams for all the work they've done in the last couple of weeks in getting the various venues up to scratch and taking in all the reports and risk assessments that were required. Thank you.
Councillor Ryan.
I want to come in as well on the TIS. I'd like to ask the Chief Executive just to comment generally on the allocation for this year, level of disappointment or otherwise, and if there are efforts at play in terms of trying to improve on that allocation. Thank you.
Councillor High.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks for the report. Two things, just well done on the information day for the Fingal Reusable Cup project. It was very positive, and there was great feeling around Malahide on Saturday, and lots of people were choosing the businesses that are participating, and I think that's going to be the key. And I think most of the independent cafes in Malahide have signed up, but I would just say please engage with Vital to make sure that there is enough cups on Saturday, because even in the participating cafes, people had to use disposable cups on Saturday, which was understandable because the cafes have to get rid of their stock. But just to make sure that the project is successful in the first few weeks, to make sure there is enough reusable cups from Vital. But obviously the long-term plan is people to just bring their own reusable cup, and I suppose that's the culture change we have to try and implement. But if we can have it as successful or even more successful than the Clarny Cup project, we'll be doing something well. Just another question on the Seamount Road footpath connectivity project. At the April Howth Malahide meeting, I had a motion on that, and I was told that we basically couldn't put footpaths on the narrow section of Seamount Road because there's an active planning enforcement file, and once this enforcement process was completed, the operations department could look into putting in footpaths. I'm just wondering, from this report, does that mean that planning enforcement file has been closed? It's on page 56 of the report, if that could be answered. Thank you very much.
Councillor Birchall.
Thanks, Chair. Just on the tenant in situ as well, I agree with Councillor O'Leary. Very disappointing to see it cut by 50%. Effectively, many families depending on it. It was brought in, as a carrot when the eviction ban was being lifted. The government obviously feels comfortable enough now after the election that they can drop it, and it's going to increase the homeless numbers. So I'd remind Councillor O'Leary that his own party is in government that have taken this decision. It's going to have a dire impact. The eviction ban should have been retained, and it's very bad value for the councils to be buying housing at market rates as well. This is a stopgap measure that's now been removed. The council should be building housing, social housing, as it used to do in large numbers. That's a much more cost-effective solution to the housing crisis. And let's be clear, it's a housing crisis for tenants. It's not a housing crisis for landlords, and this is who our government primarily represents, and that's why they lifted this eviction ban. Thanks.
Councillor Quinn.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just want to welcome the continuing works at Balbriggan Harbour, despite the challenges that the council have met. Just in relation to the draft open spaces scheme, very much welcome the work that's taking place at Cheeseman's Drive and Moylara Road in one of the areas of Balbriggan which would have the highest amount of young people. And just in relation to the town force plan for Balrodry, I'm looking forward to the facilitation of all of the businesses in the village, because there is some issues where businesses are not in the core area that are being impacted by proposals from the active travel plan. And just in relation to the sports hall replacement of the floor in Balbriggan Community Council, in Castellan Community Centre, is very welcome. And just in relation to tenants in situ scheme, it's very disappointing that the government would cut the funding for this, because as we all are, I'm dealing with somebody who had made an application in October to be told that there was no opportunity because the decision made by the government put the housing department here in Fingal at a disadvantage because they weren't able to progress certain cases. And now we find situations where people have applied in October and are being refused. And then we find out that there's less money to be spent on housing people, and this is only going to increase the homelessness. And I very much welcome Councillor O'Leary's mention of that. If he can go back to the government parties, back to your party, and discuss that as well. Thank you very much.
We have one motion from the floor which I'm ruling out of order on 74B. Thanks.
74B.
74B. On matters arising directly out of a report presented at the meeting, the motion must be directly relevant to a substantive issue to rest within the report. Members should reference the section and page number of the report which their motion relates to.
I did that, Mayor.
I'll discuss it with you. I've ruled it out of order. I'll discuss it with you later.
You can't just, and advise like that. I've said page.
Sorry, it's not to do with the quotation of the page and number. It is to do with another matter within that report. I've ruled it out of order.
Sorry, Mayor, there is a situation in the report which refers to libraries. You can't move the goalpost to suit colleagues.
It's not. I ask you to consider and withdraw that.
I apologise.
I would ask you to consider and withdraw that.
I apologise if you took offence on that. There are standing orders.
I'm not entering a discussion. It's ruled out of order. We can have a discussion about it afterwards. Thank you very much.
On what basis is it out of order? You surely owe me that explanation.
I'll have that. It is not a substantial part of the Chief Executive's report.
This is such a failure in leadership. You won't address the issue.
Sorry, it's out of order. Thank you.
Yeah, I tell you, Mayor, you won't address the issues. I find that objectionable.
Sorry.
You can't decide
Sorry,
to change standing orders
Councillor
as you
Guerin,
go along.
Councillor Guerin, it is out of order.
This
Thank
is
you.
what has led to the confusion and done a bait.
Sorry,
This is
it's
what-
out of
no,
order.
It's not. I brought a motion.
Councillor Guerin, I'm asking you to accept that it's out of order.
No,
or
I won't accept it's out of
or to
order.
withdraw yourself from the meeting.
Sorry?
Or to withdraw yourself from the meeting.
I don't accept it's out of order.
I acknowledge you don't accept it's out of order. I'm telling you it's out of order, so I'd ask you to accept that. Thank you.
No.
Now, I'm bringing in the Chief Executive. I'm bringing it into the... I'll ask you to... I'll ask the manager to come back in.
Point of order, did you rule on my query regards the emergency motion that I asked? You said there was only one motion to the floor.
Sorry, apologies. We had an emergency motion at the start of the meeting, which...
No, I know, but I'm asking, it also relates to an aspect of the Chief Executive's report.
Sorry, it hasn't come in as a...
I asked you on the floor, would you consider it?
Oh, sorry.
If I put it in.
Sorry. Sorry. No, because it wasn't on those grounds that I ruled it out. It was ruled out on other grounds, and I'll explain to those separately. I don't have to give an explanation for why an emergency motion is not there, but I'll just tell you I'll rule it out of again. No, there are other criteria that will move it out of order. And those are in relation to a motion which relates to expenditure without a report about what the expenditure is about. I can look up the specific number, but I can deal with you there, because a motion also has to comply with ordinary motion standing orders as well. Okay? Thanks. Chief Executive.
I'll ask Mr. Stewart to come in on the clothing bank issue. To Councillor Smith's question on Nugent's Hall, I hadn't heard of the controversy associated with that. Obviously, we're dealing with our heritage property of Malahide Castle, but if you want to bring some of the issues to my attention, I'm not aware of how the name was chosen. John, you might come in on that in due course. To Councillor O'Leary's question on the electoral register, Fingal was commended on our work in relation to the register. It's not perfect, there's work to be done. I'm pleased to say that a number of staff have been funded to carry out that further work. But good work by the team there to have it to the standard it is at, but accepting that it's not perfect. You and other councillors raised the issue of tenant in situ. So first of all, any tenant that's running into difficulty should make contact with our housing department. It is an option in terms of a solution for them, but it's not the only option. So they should make contact with us first. The funding is the 20 million that we mentioned at the last meeting. We would have demand for more, and we will be looking to the department to secure more funding. It isn't secured yet, and we can't enter into negotiation about how the acquisition of units until we've certainty on the funding. But yes, we would look to benefit from any funding that might be added to it for this year, but at the moment we have absorbed all of the funding that's available to us, so that's why no new properties can be negotiated. But again, tenant running into difficulty, they should contact us, because it is not the only option that's available. On the road closures issued, we obviously advertise in social media. To Councillor Chauvelin's question, I'm happy to consider any other options. I'll talk to our comms team about that. I appreciate people may miss the information. I'll ask Paul Carroll to come in on the medical priority and on the disposable cups in terms of whether there's an option for Dublin 15. And I know Councillor Hoy's comments about making sure it's a success and there's adequate supply, so we'll work on that with the businesses concerned. They're best placed to advise us as to what's needed by their own business. Thanks for your comments on ops and events. Good work by them. As always, a busy summer ahead for both. On the swimming, obviously there's a couple of options in terms of encouraging students to swim. One is the fact that we have a swimming officer, and they're doing some good work with schools. Secondly is agreement with existing pools to try and secure places for classes in those facilities. That helps their sustainability as well, and hopefully keep them open. And then lastly is the development of pools. And as you know, we have the plan for Balbriggan that will have quite an impact on our operational budget of 400,000 per year. So we have to bear that in mind as we enter into discussions about additional facilities. Darkness into light, again, thanks for your comments for the operations team. I know they work hard to make sure they're successful and they're happening right across the county at this stage, a very important event. To the Seamount Road, obviously there's some historic planning enforcement issues there. I'll ask Mr. McAleese to come in on the particular project. It is Mr. McAleese, I think. I note your comments, Councillor Quinn, on Balbriggan Harbour, and it is of some concern to me, the issues that are arising there, and we have to bear in mind the health and safety of our staff, so we're very conscious about that, and we'll keep that monitored, and then on Balrotherry Town First, we'll follow up with you in terms of the involvement of all stakeholders. I might hand over to the team if there's additional things you want to say.
Yeah, just on the clothing bank, there was an issue just for a couple of days within Fingal where a company that was collecting the clothing had stopped, but that's been resolved. There's a new contract after being entered, so we continue to monitor that. But it was a contract where the council were receiving money, and now we're actually paying a contractor to do it, so it's something that will have an impact on the budget for 2026. And just on the disposable cup, it's a reusable cup project for Rush and for Malahide, and it's been funded by the Dublin Regional Waste Office. It's for a 6-month pilot, and hopefully if it's successful, we'll roll it out to other locations. Thank you.
Just to confirm that we will be awarding a contract to consultants in May for the Seamount Road footpath connectivity project. So as Chief Executive mentions there are a number of historic factors, but we'll just have to work through those.
The medical priority process is a scheme to support applicants who suffer from chronic illnesses and whose condition will deteriorate if they're not housed or not rehoused in an alternative housing arrangement. So we gave quite a detailed presentation, had a detailed discussion at the last SPC process, so I can send on the presentation that we gave at that last meeting, which will, I think, answer a lot of the queries on that, and if there's anything further, you can contact me directly.
Mayor, so just on Nugent's Hall, I think there was 2 elements to the question. The first, just around the naming. Nugent's Hall was named in October 2023, and obviously naming of anything in a heritage property needs to be true to the heritage of the building. It was named after Edward Nugent, who was the last butler at Malahide, and spent 34 years in service there.
Through the chair, sorry.
Yeah, with the event. Sorry, I'm just addressing the name of the hall. So, in relation to the events and the hunt ball, the site is managed by a board and an operator, and they have been asked to operate it in as commercially viable a way as they can. So, decisions around the events that take place there are taken by the board and the operator. We have representation on the board, but it's principally the operator. I'm not aware that there's been any policy statement in the sense that you talk about values of the council that could be communicated to the operator. But if members wanted to consider such a thing, then certainly that could flow from there, and maybe a motion should be submitted to have that discussion. But bear in mind, it would limit the operator's ability to operate on a commercial basis. So, okay, thanks.
Ms. Dale?
I think it's done.
No. Okay. Great. So we'll accept the manager's report. Noted. Great. Item number 29, Mayor's Business, Councillor Bria McDonough, that the Chief Executive explore a suitable twinning of Fingal with the city of Sumy in Ukraine. The the council has previously, proposed, seconded Councillor McCamley. The council has previously proposed and passed a motion to explore a twinning of Fingal with a relevant or irrelevant twinning or arrangement with the people of Palestine or somewhere in Palestine and in Gaza. Usually twinnings are very practical, grounded pieces that are run in relation to genuine connection and require an ongoing connection and visits between places. And unfortunately, that's clearly not going to be possible either in the case of Gaza or in the case of Sumi. But there are alternative arrangements that may be explored, such as friendships. I think that we have two notable global conflicts that involve genocidal actions and wars, and there is, in the case of the Russian attack on Ukraine and the deaths in Sumi as a result of attacks from the Russian army. I was at an event and I was in discussion with the ambassador of Ukraine, and I felt that there was something that I would like us to do would be to explore and express some measure of solidarity with the people of Sumi in relation to what they're subjected to. So I would hope that councillors would agree that we should proceed to do this. Thank you. Councillor Dennison.
Well, just to clarify, what are we agreeing to do? We're agreeing to explore it. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, so I'd be happy to accept the manager's report, but I do want to pass the motion on the basis of we're exploring what that is, but that the council is agreeable. There's no point in exploring something if the council is not interested in creating such a relationship. Anything that's formalised would then, of course, come back to the council. But if what I was proposing here was against the will of the council, then there'd be no point in going ahead with it.
Great, but subject to the report of the Chief Executive. Thank you.
Agreed? Great. Item B, that motion is withdrawn. It's from the Mayor's business. Item 30, Conference Report A, AILG Elected Member 2025 Training Programme, May to July 2025. Councillor Newman.
Has to be agreed by the members, or it can be withdrawn, or can you just withdraw it?
If it's not proposed, it's not before the floor. So it has to be proposed by a member. It can be withdrawn if it's not proposed. A member can withdraw. It can't be withdrawn after it has been proposed. So a member cannot withdraw a motion after they've proposed.
Thanks for the clarification.
It wasn't proposed here. Thanks. Item 30, Conference Report. AILG Elected Member 2025. This is for noting, is it? Yeah. Noted. Item 31, Correspondence A, letter from Sligo County Council dated 9th of April 2025, rewrite to housing, noted. Item B, letter from Donegal County Council dated the 10th of April 2025, re-road safety, noted. Noted. Item C, letter from Leitrim County Council dated the 16th of April 2025, re-ash dieback trees. And item D, letter from Kerry County Council dated 22nd of April, re-calendar for grant applications. Noted. We've no departmental or ministerial correspondence. So we have item 33, item 3, point of order, yeah.
Thank you. Just before we go into the motions of statutory functions, I'm just wondering who decides which goes into statutory and non-statutory, because I don't understand how we have a motion in statutory functions in relation to decisions made by the President of the United States of America, but we have a very important motion from, well, actually one from Councillor O'Leary in relation to the tenant in situ scheme, which is a scheme that is administered by this council, and that's been put into non-statutory. And the one I slightly agree with, Councillor Corkery, again, very important issue in relation to the council's housing and the need to obviously look at the water issues that are there. So I'm just wondering who actually puts these in those different categories. Thank you.
So I'll have to check, but at a number of places within the standing orders, it refers to the decision of the administrator of the meeting. And so in some places they actually refer to that the ultimate decision is then, if there's a dispute in relation to some of those items, then it comes up to the mayor. I'll double check and come back to you in relation to the allocation of those. But a lot of those kind of decisions about what the status of a motion is in relation to geographically, whether it's subject to a committee meeting or another committee meeting, they're by standing orders, they're made in advance of the meeting by the administrator. Thanks. Item number 33, Councillor Donnelly, medical priority process, housing support. That's deferred. Okay. Item number 34, Councillor Smith, retrofitting costs. Need a proposer and a seconder?
Thank you. I think I might have shocked or created a fear in the executive with this one. The report that received, I'm not asking for us to launch some sort of wide-scale retrofitting scheme at the moment. I'm simply looking for data around the cost that can inform the decision makers around this. And I probably could have been a bit more specific in terms of even some of the averages in terms of things like access ramps or widening doors. I think we're probably going to have to focus our retrofitting agenda or our focus on environmental and energy retrofitting to meet our targets over the next few years. But just to give a bit of context to this, I would have liked to see some figures just so that we have a bit more of an idea in terms of the cost of what it is. We have a large number of very similar housing stocks, so it would have been possible to give something like that. In the last couple of months, I've dealt with a number of families who have been supporting their loved ones through different types of dementia, and we know that this can unfortunately really affect a person's mobility to the point where mobility doesn't exist anymore. They've all been very thankful for the adaptations and the grants that they can do, but the best practice when it comes to supporting individuals like that is for them to age in place, and for them to spend as long as possible with their families or in their own home. This reduces distress, it reduces confusion, it improves quality of life. However, there's been an interesting comments made by these families, and similar to wheelchair users I've been supporting in recent months as well, that they are very thankful for the adaptations and the schemes that are out there at the moment, but they are limited to their home. And they always make the same comment: I don't just live in my own home. I can't access my neighbours, I can't access my family or friends, I can't be within my community. And there's a big difference, I think, where people can live for as long as possible in their community, but not within their community, not a full active member of that. So for me, in common sense terms, I wanted to really dig into this a bit more, get the actual data, and be able to go back to the people who are raising it with me, so that we can look at what differences could be made. I'm delighted we have an access strategy coming out shortly, but again, I want to be able to see this in more depth. So I think there was a mismatch between what I was kind of asking for and what maybe the perception was.
Councillor Mulligan.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Smith, for bringing this forward. I completely support it and would love to see this. I mean, I've had my own headaches in similar vein with regards to not just retrofits, but grants for those tenants who would be availing of support from the council but wouldn't be entitled to a full retrofit, but they would be entitled to a grant to get a retrofit done, in situations where, you know, a quantity surveyor comes out and quotes 5,500 for a bathroom retrofit, and then the nearest quote they can get to actually retrofit the bathroom for the needs of the people residing in the home is €20,000. Like, there has to be, and that's 100% grant, as in included in an OT report. So, like, there's situations like that where we're looking and analysing what's required and saying, here are the people you should be going to get quotes from. These are the on our own website, and then when our own quantity surveyors go out and say, here's what we're allocating, and the threshold and the difference between the funding models is so far away that the actual needs and retrofits can't be done, even in situations where people are willing or have capacity to pay some of the means. So if we can't even do that in non-council stock, who are, for those who are in receipt of support, how are we ever going to do it with council stock, is my question, because there's a serious need to retrofit, but we need to enable people to retrofit. And if we're going to offer, if the government are offering grants, which we're giving people, and then surveyors are coming out and saying, we'll give you half of what actually costs to do it, and that's 100% of your funding, we're getting nowhere fast. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think I've given quite a detailed report there, I think, which kind of addresses the issue. But I suppose to summarise, really, the costs involved in what is being asked in the question in terms of universal design are so significant in terms of traditional housing stock that it's prohibitive, and that's essentially what all that comes to. So how we're trying to go about it is through the smaller scale grant programs and through the 30% universal design provision in new housing stock. Over time, that will yield significant dividends with the level of delivery that's ongoing at present and in the future pipeline. And it wouldn't be an efficient use of our resources to be investing such significant funds that are needed, or that would be needed, to bring old traditional housing stock up to universal design standard. So that's kind of our approach. We think we're going to be able to accommodate a much higher standard of living for the people that you mentioned, in terms of the people you're talking to day in, day out, through the current and future housing stock delivery that will be delivered up to that quite high universal design standard.
I used the UD and UD Plus as a benchmark, thinking that would probably be a quicker way of lifting some of the data. But I'm happy to accept the report in its current form, and I will probably come back with looking for more specifics around the breakdown, similar to difficulties and some of the complexities that Councillor Mulligan was referring to there. Thank you.
So that report has been accepted. Thanks. This brings us to item number 35, Councillor O'Brien. It's not in the... Pardon? Sorry? Next month. Well, Councillor Ryan.
Moved, but if it stays on the agenda until next month, I contend that this matter under Standing Order 54 is out of order and ought to be a matter for local area committee rather than full council. It deals, I still have the floor. It deals with a local issue and refers to the impact on local clubs. So it's obviously a local area committee matter. So I'd ask you to rule it out of order.
I'm not ruling that out of order on, sorry, I'm not making a judgment on it, but just for information, the Ballymastone, as was in relation to the previous ruling that I made on that particular, it's a decision that is taken by the whole council. So on the grounds that you're talking about, it's not out of order. It's not, and I'll refer to that again to you separately. But that motion is not being moved, so we go to item number 36, Councillor Redwood. So the motion is on the agenda as agreed by the Administrator under standing orders. The decision in relation to those matters is one taken, in terms of Ballymastone, was one taken by the whole council and is addressed and voted on by the whole council. So on those grounds, it's not necessarily that it will be ruled out of order on that basis. But I will speak. It hasn't been presented, so I'm not ruling it out of order. You cannot rule it out of order immediately on the agenda. It hasn't been proposed, so we'll return to it again. All right? Thanks, Councillor Bryan. Item number 36, Councillor Redwood.
Sorry, proposed.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chair. Just reading the report here, does the report not state that fox hunting is banned on council-owned land, so therefore the motion is mute?
So we'll allow Councillor Redwood to propose her motion and to speak on it.
Yeah, I'll address those points. Yeah. I think probably most people would view fox hunting as a very cruel and very barbaric sport. Well, I don't think it should be called a sport, quite honestly. Let's call it an activity. I mean, the idea that there can be any sort of humane treatment of a fox in a hunt is quite honestly laughable. There's nothing quick about a hunt. There's one report which I saw which talked about a 5-hour chase, you know, so this is a fox terrified for its life being chased to exhaustion across the land. The caption was 5 hours of pure adrenaline, you know, enjoyed by this particular individual who wrote the report. Foxes are not just pursued by horse, they can be pursued on foot, they can be pursued by car, by motorbikes, you know, a whole conglomeration of people pursuing these foxes. They can, you know, they'd be chased by packs of 20 to 60 dogs. You know, as I say, they're chased to exhaustion, then they're ripped apart while they're alive, disemboweled, dismembered. I've seen videos which show a fox when it's seeking refuge underground, that the huntspeople just go and get their spades or whatever and dig the fox out, pull it out, and feed it to their dogs. Or you can have dogs sent down the hole, in which case obviously there's going to be a very bloody battle underground. I've seen videos which show that the means of escape being prevented by blocking up the escape holes with rocks and branches and so on. They could be badger sets, they could be rabbit warrens and so on. There's a report, now this admittedly was in the UK, but the hunt was found bagging and burying the fox alive and left for the hounds to find. So, you know, the cruelty extends to the pack dogs as well, you know, how they're kept. The rescue centres get discarded dogs who are in emaciated conditions and so on. So, you know, it's not surprising that the majority of people in the country actually think it should be banned. So, you know, I commend Fingal Council for banning fox hunts from public recreational areas, but it is just public recreational areas. And there must be swathes of council-owned land which is not covered by park restrictions or open space restrictions. There's the question of the roads, which inevitably a hunt must use roads. And in fact, it is possible for hunts to apply to lease council land for such use, although there isn't, as I understand it anyway, none currently being used in that way. So, you know, obviously a national ban is needed, and, you know, Ruth Coppinger is drafting a bill for the Dáil at the moment. But, you know, the council can play its part as well. You know, it can send a message by passing this resolution, you know, and it's a step to encouraging other councils to do likewise. Imagine if all the councils in the country did that. That would be quite a huge step forward to actually getting a national ban. So, you know, I'd ask you to support the motion. It's about extending the restrictions that are currently in place. And, you know, I think it does reinforce the message that, you know, this barbaric activity should be banned completely. Thank you.
Councillor Tormey.
Thank you. I'd just like to support this motion, and while I agree it's probably more of a national issue in terms of the issues that were raised, I think even just the end of the report is enough that the whole council should support it, that, you know, if something did come up, that we would say no. Because I just think it's incredibly sick and disturbing. Anyone who thinks hunting is in any way enjoyable, it's not. It's just, and we need to be standing up to animal cruelty wherever we can. So thank you for bringing forward the motion.
Councillor Burchell.
Yeah, just to support Councillor Redwood's motion. It's incredible really that such vicious, savage treatment of animals is allowed for sport. You know, we're not a civilised society when such things go on. I mean, blood sports, the torture and the killing of animals for entertainment should be, you know, culturally, socially unacceptable. Those who engage in it should, you know, it should be made known to them that they're outside the bounds of civilization, hare coursing, you know, fox hunting obviously, and several other blood sports. Yeah, I mean, it's welcome that the council effectively have banned, you know, fox hunting on their lands, but really we should be looking at means to put an end to it in the county. So, for example, stopping hunts using public roads through bylaws or whatever mechanism we can, you know, really to harass them out of business, so to speak, because it's just an appalling thing to do to a wild animal, and we need to put an end to it. Thanks.
Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Redwood for bringing this forward. I really strongly agree with this motion. I think it's disgusting what's going on out there. There's a sort of a percentage of people that want to hunt animals is just mind-boggling to me. And I do think that our mainstream media and schools should be educating children now to make them aware of what's going on at certain ages, of course. But just to push that out there now, so in the future there'll be no percentage of hunting foxes. It's horrific, and thank you, Mr. Redwood, to bring this forward.
Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Councillor Redwood for bringing forward this motion. I fully support it, and I think fox hunting is a vile practice. It's cruel, and it has no place in our society. I think it was, and I don't mean to diminish the seriousness of the debate by introducing a quote from Oscar Wilde, but I believe it was Oscar Wilde who said that the English country gentleman galloping after a fox was the unspeakable in full pursuit of the uneatable. And it's just fundamentally wrong. It's indefensible. I welcome the comment they've made about the bylaws. The report notes that our bylaws are reasonably stringent in terms of banning fox hunting, but just looking at towards the end of the report, it does suggest that technically an application could be made from a group organising a hunt to license or use land, or to use council land which is leased to other groups, and the motion would close that. If that is a loophole, the motion would close it. I think that's a very good idea. I'd fully support it. The solution indeed is a national ban on fox hunting. But I think while the council has already a strong position on the bylaws, it's a very good idea to close off that loophole. And I think it's also a very good idea to send a clear message that we think it's a cruel, vile practice that's unacceptable. Extraordinary that we're still having to debate whether fox hunting is unacceptable in the 21st century. Thanks to Councillor Redwood.
Councillor Mulville.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to support Councillor Redwood's motion and to commend her for bringing it here today. And indeed, I think there will be an effect if we do hopefully pass the motion. And it should, you know, we do have something in terms of our parks and open spaces, which is good, but our public roads, and surely if someone's organising an event of this size, they must apply for some kind of road closure licence or some kind of events licence, and hopefully our ban would apply to that too and would prevent such events taking place across Fingal, on Fingal land and on the public roads. And indeed, from speaking to private landowners, from Fingal farmers in the past, they've been very, you know, their lands, their farms have been disrupted by the hunts going through them. You know, oftentimes in the past, maybe I'm not sure in the case now, but in the past certainly breaking down fences and, you know, affecting the running of their farm. So maybe it's something that, you know, definitely a national ban would be great to see, and I'm sure private landowners might appreciate it too. And indeed, best of luck to Deputy Coppinger and her bill, and hopefully you'll get the support of all the TDs, and the ban will come in place on a national basis. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Healy.
Vera, and I'd also like to thank Councillor Redwood for bringing this motion, which certainly so far reflects the consensus of the council here. I agree with Councillor Birchall as well that we should start looking at what further actions we might take. I think this is a good start, and maybe there is more, or maybe there isn't, but you know, as Councillor Mulvihill has said, maybe there are issues to do with the use of the roads. Certainly one thing we could do is we could circulate this motion if we agree it. We usually have on our agenda motions that have been circulated to us by other counties or councils, and maybe we might do the same, and they might follow this example. But very happy to support this. Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Redwood. Oh, Councillor Ryan. You just got in.
Just a quick one in relation to clarification of the situation with regard to events that we all see around North Fingal, kind of right throughout the winter. We see kind of people, you know, hunting on kind of farmland. What is the situation if one of those hunts, which doesn't require kind of a permit, strays onto public land? What powers are available to the council in terms of pursuing that if such transgression is reported?
Before I bring Councillor Redwood back in, is there a clarification in relation to the land, some of the questions that are
If we have the details and the evidence that they are crossing the public open space or parks, then we can issue a notice under the bylaws, but the authorised officer can issue a notice. But we would have to have detailed information on it, but it is prohibited under the bylaws. It would be brought to their attention.
Councillor Redwood.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's really made any contradictory points or contentious points, so I think, you know, I'll just ask for the motion to be agreed. I think that the suggestion to circulate the motion to other councils would be very good. Maybe that could be taken up. Yeah, so I'll just ask for that to be agreed.
Okay, so that motion is agreed. Agreed. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Is it also agreed to circulate it to agreed? Okay, great. So this brings us to item 37 from Councillor Gearan. There's an unusual situation in relation to this motion, and there's a series of standing orders which I want to look at before. So each member of the council, under notice of motions, standing order number 68, each member of the council may submit an original motion relevant to the business of the council on giving notice through the management meeting systems, etc. At the time that this motion was put on the council agenda, and any item that remains, that is on a previous agenda, must remain on the agenda for the next meeting. However, in the interim, there is no longer a judicial review. There is no longer a judicial review regarding to the Ballymastone development. So it would be quite highly unusual for us to take a motion under normal circumstances for something that wouldn't exist, because it would be moot. So then we look at the other items, the other standing orders. Where something would refer to under 72. There are items that may be put on, if there's to do with a specific area committee, they can be put on the area committee meeting agenda by the administrator. It's the administrator that would make that decision, not the mayor. In any dispute on such reference shall be determined by the mayor or Cathaoirleach on 72. So what we have is an unusual situation that I don't think is normally under or taken care of for understanding orders. So understanding order number 159, the mayor shall have the power to deal with any matter not covered by standing orders. There's no question that in relation to the normal application of this, that Ballymastone, as was the case when it was raised previously under the manager's report, is an item that was decided by decided by beside the members, and but under item 157, my view is that this motion is no longer in order, and I'm going to rule it out of order on that basis. And on 157, you may make a comment, but being cognizant that you will not accuse anybody of imputing any motives, including the chair, of improper motives in relation to that. So I'll just remind you that obligation, Councillor Kieran.
And why you'd remind me. If I just point out to you, this is certainly not a local matter. I'm the councillor who moved the motion in respect to Ballymastone.
So it's not a local matter, but it's no longer so your mistake under.
Well, I have to say, Mayor, I do think you're showing.
Under 68.
Showing bias yet again.
On 68.
Second
Thanks,
time tonight you're showing bias to protect colleagues.
Thanks, Councillor Kieran, and I refute that, and I will request you withdraw that at another time. But I understand your emotional attachment to it, so we'll leave you to it. Thanks. Thanks, I'll refute that. So item number 38, we won't really have time to deal with that under Councillor Dennison.
I disagree with your decision, because I think this is an issue of public interest, given the number of judicial reviews we've had over the last number of years across Fingal, and the implications for people who are looking for houses, and the effect it has on house prices. So I just think I disagree with you.
I note your disagreement, Councillor Tormey.
I also have to agree. It's almost hypothetical, because it talks a judicial review, not the judicial review.
So I don't think we're going to enter into a discussion over it. Councillor, I've made my ruling. Now we're heading up towards. With 2 minutes left. Does anybody wish to accept any other reports? Number 39. Anybody else? Okay. Thanks very much. Thanks for your cooperation. Thank you. Meeting is finished. Yeah.